Oh, yeah. I'm really confused about football right now. But anyway, we'll go into that later, maybe. It's episode 40, almost in agreement. Me and Sam hanging out, doing our thing. I don't know. Max might call in here in a little bit. We'll see. I don't know where AC's at. Off being a better adult, I guess. But, I hinted doing a year in review / looking forward show, so that's what we're going to do with or without the rest of the crew here. So,
Jim on his way?
Jim didn't last, man. Jim died from the COVID. Although I have and we're going to talk about that, I'm sure, because Knoxville's number 1. Well, Tennessee is number 1 in the country at new cases per capita or some shit like that.
We were number 2 the other day.
I don't know. I know like 4 Tennessee cities were in the top 10 in the country in new cases. So, shit like that. Anyway, episode 40, another downer about COVID. But Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you're into. I hope you can make the best of this season. Here we go. All right, brah.
We still on Hanukkah? I think that started earlier this week.
Hanukkah? Yeah. No, I don't know. I was watching the Dave Grohl Hanukkah specials. If you saw those things, Dave Grohl and one of the producers that's done a bunch of work with the Foo Fighters and stuff. They were doing really random covers. It was just him and one other guy doing random covers, and they did one each night of Hanukkah. And one was the song called Peaches, but it's not that Presidents of the United States song, right. Peaches. It's, I don't know. The tag to the song is "Fuck Me Till I Forget It Hurts," I think is the tag of the song, something like that. What? Yeah. Fuck Me Till I Forget. Something like that. It's Peaches. I didn't know the song. I'm not well cultured in early 80s.
Interesting holiday special song.
Early late 80s punk, new wave, whatever it is. So like I said, I want to do a year in review / looking forward show. Maybe get a little personal. Maybe stay on politics and world shit. I don't know. But so I'm going to have everybody here for that one. But I know AC is working next weekend. So I know he won't be here for that one anyway. I'm not sure what's going on with Max next weekend, but we can chime in his version of it when he gets here. But I don't know. I pulled up some articles about year in review stuff, and the celebrity deaths one is
what's the
bummer.
General consensus on 2020?
What's the general consensus?
Yeah, it's pretty positive.
I mean, I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of as compared to what 2019, 2018. I mean, if we're going to compare it to, like, that's the only way you can do it is to compare it to other time frames, and it's like, okay, 2019 we didn't have this constant overhanging of this slow death that is the COVID situation. We didn't have the pandemic on our hands. And I guess for me it's like how much got passed over in the news that is of news, but it got passed over because of the other stuff that's going on.
Right.
Because, I mean, fuck, one of the ones that's easy to joke about, and I didn't forget about it because it's been joked about a lot by a number of people. Trump was impeached this year. It was in January.
Yeah, it was early this year.
Yeah. Trump was impeached this year.
Yeah.
And here we are, and he's not president. Well, he's not going to be president anymore this coming January, but it's easy to forget stuff like that. Like, Kobe died this year. I forgot about that one. Like, I remember that Kobe died in a helicopter crash because he's so badass that he takes a helicopter around L.A.
It does kind of feel like it was last year.
And so, not to get into the death side of the story, but just in, like, the big news, you had like half of Australia was on fire this year. Yeah. Most of California was on fire this year, but that's kind of every year, so that's not new to 2020.
It's one of their worst years.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle quit the royal family.
Yeah, I saw something the other day. They actually they're starting a podcast.
I mean, they got to make money. They don't get any of that. They don't get any of the Queen's money no more.
It's true. They gave up on it.
I
think they were moving to Canada too.
He saw real active duty. Yeah, no, they can't. There was something about, like, he can't because even though he has abdicated his role in the family, he cannot live anywhere within the Commonwealth.
I thought they were talking about them moving somewhere.
Yeah, I remember hearing them talking about moving to Canada, and that's where I heard the story. The movie Parasite got a bunch of Oscars. I didn't watch it, so I don't know. Harvey Weinstein
Yeah.
He got sentenced and
Nice.
found guilty of being a
Like
douche
2
canoe.
trials, I want to say.
Yeah. The stock market crashed in 2020, but this is the New York Post I'm reading the list off of. This is a New York Post article from like October 30th, so it was a little bit. It's a couple weeks ago that this post came out, but
A little premature.
I mean this. Yeah. Well, the lead into the article is like, and we'll see what happens as the year goes on. You know, kind of priming you for Trump pulling that ace out and winning this hand. Anyway, I don't really feel like there was a huge. I mean, there was a large crash in the stock market, but it didn't feel like it was like it has been in the past. Like other market crashes we've had in the past seem to have more impact. This one was overshadowed by COVID, which caused it, and so that one just kind of went. I didn't feel like that one was a huge deal. You know, the George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, all that kind of stuff kicked in this.
Yeah. Sean Connery.
Yeah. Well, I was going to do deaths later. You know, Biden wins the presidency. Duh. The Twitter hack one, that was a good one that I kind of forgot about. It was kind of a big deal. A group of kids hacked a bunch of celebrities. Yeah. That was a cool one. Scamming people for Bitcoin. Jesseline Maxwell was arrested. The murder hornets. Now, this one was interesting to me because I remember we talked about it at the time back in April, May, or whatever when it was going on.
Yeah.
So I remember we talked about it, and I remember looking up an article about it. And this is the New York Post says the invasive insect known as Asian giant hornet was spotted for the first time stateside when it invaded Washington state. And when I was reading that earlier today, prepping for the show tonight, I was like, but that article I read when we were talking about it back in April, May was talking about how it was kind of a hoax. The murder hornet thing was kind of a hoax anyway. They'd been here before. They'd been eradicated in Washington before, and this was like in 2016 or something like that. And for whatever started it was more like a viral rumor than it was an actual story this year. But anyway, that popped out as interesting to me, not because the murder hornet thing was that big a deal, but because it actually wasn't, but they're still listing it as a big deal this year. I thought that was strange. That big crazy explosion in Beirut, that was a weird one. West Coast wildfires. Yeah, that's in the death category. The president got COVID. Joe Biden won the presidency. And that's all they have in this list. And I'm trying to think of anything else. We had county elections here. I don't think, to my understanding of how elections go in Knoxville, Knox County, state of Tennessee, I don't think there were any huge surprises on any election-wise. Yeah. Everything kind of ran its course. So in dead celebrities, Kobe we already mentioned, the Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, Sean Connery, Alex motherfucking Trebek. God damn it, that was the one. If you guys follow us on Facebook, that was the only one I posted this year. I was like, you know what? Put up a lot of shit 2020, but now you've gone too far. Not that it wasn't expected. When he came out talking about it, he was way deep into whatever the specific cancer is.
Pancreatic.
Yeah.
It literally has like the highest death rate or one of the quickest death rates.
Yeah. Jerry Stiller died this year. Ben Stiller's dad, who's also, right. What was it? George Costanza's dad in Seinfeld.
Right.
Rainier, what's his name? I remember really liking him in.
Who?
I can't remember. Something Rainier. He's an actor. He was in like the Ocean's 11 movies. He's the really old guy.
Oh, Rob Reiner.
Rob Reiner. Sorry, Reiner. Close enough. What's his name from Friday? Tommy Lister.
Is that his name?
Yeah, that's his real name. I don't remember what his character's name was, but Debo. That was Debo.
Oh, no, I was thinking of the dad from Friday.
No, he died a couple years ago.
Was it? Yeah.
I think so. David Lander. There were a bunch, but Sean Connery and Alex Trebek were probably the two that I was most upset about, personally. A couple of country stars. Charlie Daniels, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Again, not that it was wholly unexpected. The guy's like 107 years old, but still bums me out. Little Richard died this year. I forgot about that one when I was looking through this list earlier. What's the other one that I saw that kind of took me by surprise? Let me find it here. A bunch of people on this Entertainment Weekly's list, and a bunch of people I don't have a fucking clue who they are. Saint Dog. I don't know who that is.
Nope.
His real name is Stephen Thornton. Saint Dog, a founding member of the hip hop collective Cottonmouth Kings.
Uh-huh.
For those hip hop fans. Oh, fucking Van Halen. Jesus Christ. Eddie Van Halen. That was a recent one, too.
Yeah.
Sucks ass. No, but there's one more that popped out on here that I wanted to mention. It's going to drive me nuts. Sylvester Stallone's mom, Jackie Stallone, died this year. She was 98. RBG.
That's right.
Can't forget about that one. Cliff Robinson, a longtime basketball player. Chadwick Boseman. Where did it go? It's a comedian, or not a comedian, like a comedic actor. He was in like the Dog Show movie and a bunch of that series. Like all that whole group that went together is like Parker Paisley, Parker. Anyway, that's not who died, but that group. Oh, Regis died this year too. Forgot about him. Charlie Daniels, already mentioned that one. Yeah, Carl Ranier.
Who?
Carl Ranier. Rainer.
Reiner.
Shut up.
Have you never heard that name before? He's like one of the most
He's
classic,
been around
like,
for fuck
show
ever,
writers. Yeah, he was a writer on the Dick Van Dyke Show. He's been a classic comedic genius for decades.
For fucking ever. Oh, Fred Willard. That's the one I was trying to think of.
Ah, that's right. Yeah.
He was one character in almost everything he did, but he was so much fun. Like he was just always good stuff. That was the one I was chasing down. Jerry Stiller, there he is. But yeah, so that was 2020. Moving on.
Woohoo.
I got nothing else. I mean, yeah. I don't know. For me personally, I mean, having it like probably the one biggest thing of 2020 to me, is like this is one of the first times I've actually had real issues with my employment relationship and the government's relationship and that kind of thing. Like this whole COVID reaction. Not that I'm surprised that the government did it in a really fucked up way with the unemployment extensions and all the different stuff they've done, but this is the first time I think in my life that I can honestly say that I was resentful for having a job. Like, and that's such a weird feeling to have. Like, that's probably like if I'm gonna try to pick apart one thing that was kind of because it's been so long and it's still happening now. You know, one thing that's just kind of been a consistent for me since March was like, why am I working? I mean, fuck, I was working today. I had to go by the mall. The mall was fucking packed. Mm-hmm. Target was fucking packed. Most of the grocery stores were about as busy as they always are.
I got on the interstate earlier this afternoon. It was backed up.
Yeah.
I'm assuming everybody going to the mall or just general traffic.
I mean, I thought people would quit going to the mall anyway. Like, that's what's weird to me. Like, I remember, like last year,
I think most people are realizing, like, oh, that Amazon package isn't coming for 1 month, according to UPS.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But I remember I'd redone my route for work to avoid going near the mall when it got to this time of year.
Right.
And then on Saturdays specifically, I'd go down to my closest to campus first thing in the morning just to get them out of the way so I didn't have to deal with the football traffic. We had a noon home game today.
Was it a home game?
Yeah.
Huh.
And you could but that's the weird part is like we got two kind of opposites happening. Like the mall's busy, which I don't remember it being busy last Christmas. But I went into that shopping center at 10:30 this morning. I was running late. At 10:30 this morning for a noon kickoff. And there were like 7 cars in the parking lot. So that was kind of weird, but yeah, so that's my 2020 personal.
Heard the band couldn't go.
Couldn't go to the game?
To the game, yeah.
And on a home game?
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, fuck, apparently we're not going to have a football team next year anyway because we're getting in.
Yeah, what's that about now? I haven't heard anything about this.
Something about kind of, I don't know. The article I was reading said something about how the university is probing into the football team. about like some scholarship violations or some recruiting violations or something like that.
Don't they normally just like kick you down a division?
No,
Is there something-
it depends. It depends what it is. But the big one is like no postseason for a couple of years, and you lose like all your, some of your scholarship availability and stuff like that. And like who wants to go play for a team that you can't go to a bowl game with?
Right.
You know, and so it's the death sentence they did to SMU a couple of years back. But, yeah, but it seems like it's one of those where I think the NCAA was starting to look into them. And so they did an internal investigation real quick to be like, no, we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. Like that's one of those things. Like self-reporting's a thing.
Well, Bruce Pearl got in trouble 5-10 years ago
For
the same thing.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's
Or
it.
at least recruiting violations.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
Did
I don't know what the rule. Like the one article I got on it was not very in depth. So,
Not familiar with it.
I'd heard, I'd seen a headline on it, and then Max mentioned it in one of the chats. But I don't know. What about you? What you got? What's your 2020 personal review? Or whatever story that you think was a big deal in 2020 that I might not have mentioned going down our U.S. Weekly list or whatever bullshit I just pulled up.
I mean, I can't think of too much else crazy. I mean, outside of Corona, it's probably been the most forefront that's affected most people's lives throughout the world.
I agree with that. I mean, it's kind of hard not to, but I'm just saying, what's another story that are we allowed to talk about Hunter Biden yet?
I'm not familiar with what all's come out about it.
Well, here, okay, so I remember you and I
were looking into his finances.
Right, he is under investigation from the Department of Treasury and the FBI, and he's been so since like 2018. And so let's go. Okay, so this is not what I was trying to go with this, but actually, let's finish where we're at. What do you got? Anything for you personally? Anything that was a story in 2020 that got buried underneath COVID-19 that you think needs to be rehashed or?
Nothing springs to mind at the moment.
Okay. So the Hunter Biden thing, I remember you and I were talking about it. So, okay, let's first go back to our first thing on the 2020 review. What was the first thing that I said on the 2020 review?
Kobe.
No. First thing on the 2022 review was impeachment. What did he get impeached for?
It was
the quid pro quo with Ukraine.
Gotcha.
Right?
Right.
And what was his quid pro quo for with Ukraine?
Weapons for investigations.
Right. Investigation into
Hunter Biden.
Okay. So in 2018, the United States FBI had an open file investigation on Hunter Biden for his financial and international dealings. Okay, so correct, before you say it, correct, it does not specifically link what we're talking about to the Ukraine situation, to the Burisma thing or whatever. But there was an open investigation into Hunter Biden at the time, right?
Okay.
So AG Barr doesn't say anything about it at the time. And we just go on and Trump gets impeached for it. So 2 weeks before, 3 weeks, was it a month? What was it, late October? Early October? Early October, the emails and the laptop thing comes out. And the New York Post, which the New York Post, who we just read our list of big events this year, which didn't have it on their list either, wrote a story about some of the content on the laptop, to which we were told it was Russian disinformation and it's unverified. And some of the news sources said that, this is stolen information. We're not going to report on stuff that was not agreed to be taken or that can't be sourced properly or whatever. All right. And so we didn't get to talk about it pre-election. So now it's post-election. The FBI and the AG's office are now, and even Hunter himself, he was the one that let the cat out of the bag officially. He went out in a press conference and said, I've been made aware through my attorneys that I've been under investigation since 2018 by the IRS and the FBI. And so,
it's just like the IRS in the state of Delaware or something.
No, it's something for in the state of Delaware. It's like it's essentially the from my understanding of it, which is not great given, but from my understanding of it, he was making money from whatever he was doing around the world. And wherever his business and or personal address to report his income to is trying to figure out where his money's coming from and whether all of his money that he was making was properly taxed. That's what the investigation is, that he has unclaimed income tax, essentially.
Gotcha.
And so in part of that process, they're trying to find out where all he was making money around the world. And so, again, maybe a little bit tinfoil hat, but this kind of seems all in the same family of conversation things. But the big one for me is why didn't it come out in October? And I have the answer to this, which is even grosser. I don't remember who said it specifically, but it didn't come out in October because the Justice Department didn't want to influence an election with that investigation.
Think so?
No, that was a quote. Yeah, that was a quote
from the Justice Department.
Right. That apparently it's a policy quote too, and it's like, well, okay, except by not being public with this investigation that's been going on for multiple years.
Yeah, it was a double-edged sword. I mean, it was
right.
one thing that
by not going public, it's influencing the election as well.
Right. I mean, Comey wrestled with it with the Clinton emails, like 1 week before the election in 2016.
Right. Which the conspiracy argument would be that, well, the deep state, looking back, fucked up and got Trump elected in the first place by letting that looking into Hillary Clinton situation go public, damaging her credibility. She loses the election to Trump. If we do that again right now, right before the election again.
Are you buying into deep state too?
Do what?
Are you buying into this whole deep state shit too?
Again, I try to be specific with my words where I say things like putting on my tinfoil hat for a minute.
Okay.
It sounds very similar to the situation we had going into the Clinton-Trump election, except this time we withheld the information before the election, and then Biden wins. Okay. To say it caused it or saved it or whatever, I don't know. I'm saying it is interesting to kind of try to paint the picture. And will we ever get all the information? Probably not. Will we ever know if Joe Biden actually has direct ties through Hunter to all these different things that are going on around the world? Probably not. But I find it problematic at minimum that it was specifically withheld from the public going into an election. Which I guess really brings up the question is, does family count?
Well, I mean, in a lot of investigations, you don't release much information in ongoing investigations.
Right, except all sorts of investigations, they leak shit all the time.
Right, but there's still a number that you don't hear about.
Well, yeah, but they're not as high profile when you don't hear about them usually. But
I mean, even with Trump, there was investigations that were going on that weren't talked about, even though they were already in progress.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying it's just, I don't know. It's a little wonky to me.
I don't know. I don't have an opinion on whether it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure they kind of wrestled, like, is it better to go ahead and...
But I guess to me what really bothers me about it is that you and I tried to talk about it, and you said it wasn't a story before the election. And now there's more information about it, and it is a story after election. So the story was already moving pre-election, but it was shut down.
No, that was the whole laptop thing. I don't know what was purported to be on the laptop. I haven't heard about the laptop since. So obviously the laptop wasn't a fucking story anyway.
I mean, if the laptop is stored information that an individual has that may or may not include information about where he's making money from, I would assume it'd be interesting for the investigators in that investigation for his income situation. If I'm investigating you, if I'm the IRS and I'm looking into you for tax avoidance of some sort, okay, I'm going to want any and every computer or computer-like thing, phone, all that kind of stuff that you've had in the time that I'm investigating, okay, because I'm going to say, oh, well, maybe there's emails with accountants around the world or something like that.
So this was Hunter Biden's laptop?
Last I checked, nobody said it wasn't. I have not heard a single story that says it wasn't his laptop. I've heard stories that some of the information that has been publicized wasn't actually on the laptop and it came from other places. But I've heard zero denial that it was his laptop.
I'm pretty sure Hunter Biden came out and said it was not his laptop. But I could be wrong.
I could be too, I bet. Anyway, either way, my point being, we weren't allowed to talk about it in October, but we can talk about it now. Again, my tinfoil hat pops on.
Who wasn't allowed to talk about it in October? Who was not talking about it in October?
I was trying to, and you shut me down.
No, I said I just don't know anything about it. I mean, I'd have to go back and listen to my exact
I'm
words.
pretty sure it's like you. I'm pretty sure the quote was you said this is a non-story.
Right. For everything that I'd read, essentially, everyone which like to take our, intelligence community professionals at their word and like, this looks like a bunch of Russian bullshit.
Right.
Like, this doesn't look like anything.
But
I'm going to take their expertise over my non-expertise.
Okay. I won't, but okay.
I mean, there's there's a reason. I mean, they're heads of our intelligence agencies.
like Buttigieg is head of transportation. What's the reason for that?
Is that the intelligence community?
No, but there's a reason these people get put in these positions. I'm just picking one that I know that doesn't make sense.
You're making a half-ass argument.
Okay, I'm on the fly here.
I mean, Buttigieg was the mayor. I mean, does he have the best track record for transportation of secretary? I don't know. Why was fucking what's his name? Who was the sleepy neurosurgeon?
Ben Carson.
Ben Carson.
Because he got out of the way for Trump. Just the way the same thing. It's the same thing for Buttigieg.
I mean, what did he have any knowledge on as far as
he's a black guy.
Housing and urban development.
He was a black guy.
Okay.
I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Talking about all the money that he was spending. That kind of went down the drain too.
How much was he spending? I didn't hear anything about that. I don't know that story at all.
Oh no, there was much stories like he got this. It was like tens of thousands of dollars worth of furniture that he was trying to furnish his office with.
Yeah, get it,
just
buddy.
like exorbitant amounts of money.
Right, you could put somebody. You could put it. You could
like Victorian era desk was what he was wanting.
You could put a handful of people in housing for that same amount of money he spent on bullshit.
Basically,
I guess to me to where I question what I like to jokingly call the deep state, but where I question intelligence communities is that between the Snowden situation, and a number of other different leaks and other information that's come out over time. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that they have our best interests as a society in mind. I believe that, like many other government agencies, they're in the self-preservation game. And so, is it good for them to... What's good for them is not necessarily good for us. So what they're telling us doesn't necessarily mean what we hear, I guess is what I'm saying. Is they could say this is not important or whatever. Because again, to me, like right now, is Russia or China a bigger geopolitical threat to the United States right now?
I would say China.
I would agree. But that's not what it sounds like to me from a lot of the intelligence agencies' conversation about it. Because it's a bigger stink on Trump. I think there's politics in the I guess I think there's more politics in the intelligence agencies than there should be. Because there should be zero. But I think there's more politics in it than there should be.
I don't see where you're going with this.
I'm just saying. I think there's intent. There is incentive that is not in the mission statement. If
how would it benefit our intelligence community to lie about their true thoughts on the Hunter Biden laptop?
Because they would rather have Biden as president than Trump.
Because everyone in the intelligence community is Democrats?
No, but I would say most
part of the deep state.
I would say most of the intelligence community they'll have more budget in the old status quo than Trump's version.
Why? Did Trump lessen the defense budget?
I mean, he fired a lot of people, but I don't know the exact budget conversation.
Firing people, does that decrease the budget?
But he was.
Why do you think all of a sudden the Democrats come into office and the defense budget's gonna balloon?
I mean, I think it is, but I think there's more value in the status quo and the keeping things the way they were. And Trump didn't play that game correctly. I won't say he didn't play the game. He passed the largest military spending bill we've ever had, but he didn't play the game correctly. He's actively tried to reduce troop numbers around the world and stuff like that. He's been in a consistent fight with the intelligence agencies because of the Steele dossier and his whole his first 2 or 3 years of the presidency.
The Steele dossier had nothing to do with the intelligence community.
What was the Steele dossier?
Steele dossier was a dossier that was first requested by Republicans during the Republican primaries.
Okay.
And then after...
Requested from who?
I think it was Axios. that had the original story.
Okay.
Trying to remember. I heard a couple of guys. I think it was like the two founders of Axios that were on.
So maybe I should take the deep safe off and say the establishment instead of deep state might be a better way to.
Okay.
If that word lands more logically.
Anyway, the Steele dossier was initiated by the GOP.
Okay.
Anyway, yes, after Trump became the front runner in the primaries for the Republican primary.
Okay.
The Democrats then did take it over. I think the Clinton campaign did take it. But from what I heard and read, that they knew the Steele dossier, they didn't take everything in it for a fact. Like apparently Christopher Steele was simply making a report on what he was hearing from his sources in Russia.
But it was
these are the stories that were circulating.
But it was the main.
It didn't like say that he had verified any of these stories.
Right. But it was the main piece of evidence that gave them probable cause for the FISA warrant.
No.
Where did the FISA warrant come from then?
There's other things. I don't remember exactly, but no, the Steele dossier was not.
Okay. Then I'm wrong on this one. I'm convoluted.
I mean, as most people don't believe him. What was his name? The guy that had recently got fired. Not Christopher Wray, because he's the current FBI. McCabe. He testified 2 or 3 weeks ago that I watched a good 30, 45 minutes of. I was able to break it down a lot better. And was able to explain. He was like, the
I'll have to
go
back to
that. Was not carte blanche for them to start just making FISA warrants.
Who was Trump's initial? Was it Secretary of State pick or whatever that got in trouble for talking to foreign leaders before his term or whatever? Who was the guy that quit or pled guilty?
Flynn?
Yeah. Because I thought that...
Or Manafort?
I think it was Flynn.
Or was it... Yeah, which one of his friends was it that got in trouble?
I think it was Flynn, the one that I'm thinking of, was the one who pled guilty.
Right.
And I thought that... Because he was on the campaign with them when the FBI was investigating the Trump campaign. And I thought that was all.
Flynn didn't have anything to do with the campaign. Manafort did.
Was it Manafort? Okay. So again, I'm not obviously not clear on my deets.
There was Manafort, and there was somebody else that was his actual campaign manager. I think that got in trouble.
All right. Well, fuck it. Let's go to COVID then, because I don't have my facts straight. I don't know what I'm talking about. All right. So you shared this NPR thing about NPR headline. New release COVID-19 data shows most U.S. cities are sustained hotspots. And so I read through some of this. I didn't get through the whole thing, and you pulled up another couple of data points with us local folks. In populations of 250,000 to 1 million in the United States, Knoxville, Tennessee is number one in cases per 100K at 872. So, yeah. Trending up hard, people. Chattanooga's in second on that list. In the 1 million plus range, Nashville is first. So we're sucking balls right now, Tennessee. But what I found interesting, and again, I don't know, I'd have to refine the map that I looked at when this kind of same story was coming around. I think it was a CDC map.
I think these are numbers only going back 2 to 3 weeks.
It was a CDC map that was showing states in their whatever it was in blues for some reason. It was light blue was lower rates of new infections, and dark blue, like a navy blue, was the highest rates of new infections. And so, I'm looking around doing what I'm doing my day job, going around running into 1,000 people a day because that's what I have to do for work, and and I'm hearing what's going on in the news locally in the Board of Health, and Mayor Jacobs and, Commissioner Biggs and Ward and was it Lafferty out there from the state is trying to do this shit with this Board of Health, and everybody's pitching a fit about it, which I get it, whatever. But I'm looking at this national map, and Tennessee is a dark blue. We're high on the new cases list, but so is California. So is Arizona. So can't remember the whole list of states. California being the main one of focus. And so I did not go through this chart with a fine-tooth comb to check exactly how they were showing the numbers. I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, then this whole thing's out the window. But I'm assuming it's a similar thing. It's per 100,000, per million, per however many.
Based on percentage increase.
Right. It's some sort of per capita number. Right. And it's like, well, California's never stopped lockdowns, never stopped mandates, never stopped. I mean, California was closing parks. You couldn't go out into parks. And so the question is really, where are all these cases coming from? Because, again, having friends in the bar and restaurant industry that are struggling through all the shit right now and trying to understand what's going on with them and, trying to encourage them to open back up at all. But this is where I'm still confused. And we could probably go back to, our third episode, and I'm going to say what I said then, too. I don't understand how this is happening. Because it seems to me, at least right now, it's either the mandates don't work because people completely ignore them anyway.
I think that's the main problem. Yes.
Okay. So the point is the mandates, the shutdowns, all that kind of stuff is not a positive to the situation. Because again, if California, who's been under mandates and shutdowns and all that stuff this whole time, is still having case rates in the same color coding level as we are in Tennessee, who have had much less shutdowns through the process, what's the actual cause? So the cause isn't, it's not the mandates that are stopping it. It's not the shutdowns that are stopping it. So what are these other states doing that are keeping their case numbers down better than ours? Because you can't say masks. I mean, they may be masking better, but it's not the mandate that's making it so. It's the population's willingness to go along with it. California's population is not willing to go along with it. Tennessee's not. Both of them are under mandates right now either way, but for a long time we weren't, and now we are. And so it's not keeping us from these numbers. So it's our unwillingness to play along. But that's the same in California. So again, it's not the mandate that's making things better. It's people's adherence to it. And that's the rub to me. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to make a law and not enforce it, then you didn't make the law in the first place. If you're going to make a law, you got to enforce it, or it's not going to stop anybody. And I don't know how you really logically enforce this one, because if we're not willing to do it because you say, hey, this is the right thing to do, I don't know how you enforce it. Other than cops running around writing people tickets for not wearing masks.
I think you run into the key problem that most municipalities have run into, is trying to find, and there is no happy medium, but trying to find that of trying to encourage people to do things, but not outright have cops out trying to police and make sure people are wearing their mask over their nose and their mouth, and not just half-ass putting it over their mouth.
But I get it. It's like my point. My like.
I mean, do they really want to try to fine people when people are already hard up for cash that they know people aren't going to be able to afford to pay a fine, and the state can't afford to put these people in prison?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't. So, other than causing a lot of extra strife on something that's already strifeful enough, what are these mandates and lockdowns doing? Because again, in my interpretation, it could be totally wrong, but from what I see, especially from this one CDC map that I was looking at, is that lockdowns and mask mandates aren't necessarily coinciding with lower infection rates.
But that's only if people are actually adhering to a mask requirement.
So, but all you're doing, if the public is not willing to play along, what's the next step? That's my point.
You're at least getting some people that are willing to do it, that are helping to slow the spread. What you do with those people?
But the data's not showing that.
You can't quantify it. I mean, there's literally no way to find out exactly every single person if they are not adhering to mask mandates and actually, remaining in their homes, or if they're not feeling good.
But we here locally have gotten
work.
But we locally have gotten.
You're not finding those numbers, so you're not going to see those numbers.
We locally have gotten stricter and stricter in the mandates. Shrink times the bars allowed to be open. Shrink the number of people that are allowed to be in the bars and restaurants. Went from We went from just a, hey, probably should wear a mask if you can. Do what?
How many people are adhering to that?
That's not. I'm not talking about adherence.
How many businesses do you think are adhering to that?
Well, you're the one that's saying the stricter the mandate is, the more that it's some people will follow. Then.
I'm not saying the stricter the mandate, the more people to do. Yeah. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, but I guess my point is the people that were willing to listen in the first place already listened, right? They're willing to say, hey, they're pretty serious about that they're talking making law. It's not that big a deal. I'll just wear the stupid mask and go about my business.
Right.
Those people haven't changed.
I agree.
Okay.
Well, some people have gone away from it because, even the Surgeon General came out a few weeks ago. Was, one of the main spikes, I think this was pre-Thanksgiving, was, what they were calling, pandemic fatigue.
Right.
As people were pretty much just tired of it.
Right. Which I guess that's kind of where I'm at more than anything. I think just everybody's just fucking done with it.
That's where most of the general public is. And I don't feel like you're exclusive in it.
Right. But I say, like, the question to me is, like, how do we functionally, like, I guess the issue I'm having is that as we try to somehow governmentally force solutions, all we're pushing is, to me, we're just pushing further divides in the people that are either on board and have been on board the whole time, or aren't on board and aren't on board the whole time. It's not fixing anything, these new mandates. So what do we need to do? I guess is kind of where I'm trying to lead to. Like, what do we need to do? Yes, I agree. We need to, as a populace, say, okay, let's get down to business. Let's do what we need to do. Let's stop. Let's all wear our masks correctly. Let's get better masks out to people. Because that's another thing that they've been talking about is these, like, standard surgical mask, which is the one I always wear, is not very good at it. It's better than nothing.
I've seen it on the convention center on, like, one of the little marquees when I drive by it all the time. I think it's kind of like UT's slogan. It's like, mask up now, party later. That's the main thing. It's like, hey, if we all get through this shit now and actually get numbers down,
right,
we can start to party later.
Right. But then again,
we're not getting numbers down.
Right.
You can't expect to just open back up when our numbers are only steadily increasing.
Right. And to give the to give it its due, both sides of it. I bring this up not because it's anybody's fault, but that's what we did in March. It was 14 days to slow the spread, right? We did that back in March.
Right.
And we're like, okay, cool. We did what you asked.
And our numbers were going down then.
But we got past those 14 days, and then we skyrocket to where it just everywhere starts bouncing back up and going from there.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, well, that didn't work. And so while
it's hard to say it didn't work. I mean, it may have slowed down a spike that may have been going up. So, I mean,
right,
for 14 days, of like, hey, let's all slow down for 14 days. Let's take a look at the numbers.
Right.
And we're still learning at how.
Right. And again, that's what I was saying. To give it its due, we didn't know what we know now.
Right.
But to give credence to and to be fair to the people that are fatigued with this whole thing, it's like, we did what you asked. We did what you asked. We did what you asked. And we're not going anywhere. All I'm doing is sitting in my house more. Fucking last week was this week was fucking miserable.
Right, because all of the county went
to virtual learning.
Right.
And so I don't know. I mean, it's like I don't. I mean, again, I'm not an anti-masker, obviously, but at the same time, I don't know how long can we continue to do this, understanding that we can't continue to do this. That's the thing. That's the problem. It's like,
well, we can't.
We can't. We not you and I can't. We as a populace are done with this. We're tired of it. And logically or not, that's where we're at.
We're collectively throwing up the white flag.
I mean,
this pandemic's got the best of us. Just give up.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. That's what it feels like. I mean,
I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry people feel that way.
Do you think I'm wrong?
I think it's a defeatist outlook.
Okay.
I mean, I keep thinking back to, like, World War II, and it's kind of hard to equate. I mean, some people have, equated this to a war, basically. I can bring the mic closer.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to keep you level. I don't want to talk over you the whole time.
You're not. I hear you just fine.
Yeah, but I can see the difference in how loud we talk on the screen, and I don't want it to be me.
I'm soft-spoken. I don't want to yell at you.
I mean, I do want it to be me. This is all about me.
I mean, looking back at World War II, I want to say before we even got into it, but even after we did, most people, you had your, gas stamps where we literally, like, rationed our own gasoline. We rationed, all car manufacturers stopped making cars. everyone, they had everybody turning in their like pots and pans just to make metal and make bullet shells.
I mean, I think there's something to that as well. I mean, there's obviously there's.
I mean, that seems like that would be a hell of a lot harder time than what we're going through now.
But I think the big difference though is,
am I wrong in that?
I think it'd be.
That sounds like that's asking a lot of people. Like, hey, will you turn in your pots and pans? When
it isn't.
People didn't have shit. They didn't have like all the luxury and amenities that we have now.
I agree with that, but it's
3
different.
Cast iron pots, and that was it.
It's different in the sense though that, and maybe this is a nostalgic view, and it's like pining for the past or whatever. But I think there was, I think probably up to about Vietnam, we were a much more unified country as a whole. I don't think we had the division that we had going into this. Trump didn't help. Trump made it worse, whatever. But I think we have been, I rail on the 2-party system all the time, and these hard lines that we draw as a society, that we've been drawing as a society of this country for a long time. I think. I would argue that World War I, World War II, it wasn't the same game. As we were a different society then, and so that understanding,
and still pretty divided.
I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just saying, man. And again, like I said, it could be a rosy look at the past that we were much more willing to.
I mean, we were just coming out of the Depression. There was a lot of unionizing that was going on. You had a lot of strikes, and a lot of the mining strikes of like the teens, 20s, and 30s.
Right.
We still had, divided segregatedly wise, legally,
right.
Literally.
All right, I agree with that.
Races. Right. I think we were still a pretty divided country.
I think it's different. I think in different ways. I think, yes, I'm not saying you're wrong.
We were coming to industrialism, so we still had a lot of like farm folk, basically, families that were literally let out of school whenever it was harvest
time,
season.
right. But I think I don't know. I guess again, I not lived it, obviously. I think there was a difference in the way we were as a country,
like
society.
Said, we kind of have that nostalgic look back on it.
Maybe, I don't know. I guess that's the real question right now. Is it a nostalgic look back, or was it truly a different time? I mean, well, okay, it goes back to the question that AC likes to bring up to me, like how did we function?
One of the few things that brought us out of the Great Depression was partially the war and the New Deal, and actually, having TVA,
deficit spending, killing the gold standard, and all that kind of stuff. It brought us out. I agree.
About killing the gold standard, not that much about monetary wise.
Yeah, that's one the same. That was in the same era. I think actually
we started doing a lot of public works projects,
right?
Which
government spending, right?
I still say we should have done in the earlier COVID months. I think that would have been a key time to get.
I think it could have been a better way to do some of this. A better way to do the CARES Act would have been to do it differently, and doing that, like, yeah, fucking, you got laid off. Cool. Here's a shit labor job, but we're gonna pay you to come help us pave these roads that ain't been paved for years.
Right.
Spend that money there, not on the Kennedy Center and other bullshit that they spent money on, which they're gonna do again. It's in the works. They just passed another 2 days. We got another 2 days of government.
Saw that.
Yeah. So it's good.
But the COVID relief bill didn't pass, but they did another to avert government shutdown.
Right. And Pelosi and McConnell say we're not allowed to leave. We're not leaving D.C. until we get a COVID relief bill out.
Right.
And the only real sticking point is whether or not the federal government's going to bail out state governments.
I thought one of the sticking points was or maybe it was Trump that was wanting conditions for like Google and Amazon.
Oh, I don't know.
I thought that was one of the arguments.
See, that's one of the things
as well.
Right, that's
where they started like earmarking stuff.
Yeah, I hate that shit.
Piggybacking shit.
Like that to be like again
that's
me.
Where they come up with concessions. They were like,
right.
all right, well if that's what you want, then we want this. And they're like, okay, well if you want that, we want this.
Right, but those have nothing to do with this, and that's what drives me nuts. Like me, Mr. hates the government.
Right, but when you have two sides that want certain things,
right.
they want to feel like they want something.
Right, they need to do there needs to be a law in the books, and I hate that phrase, and I don't normally say it, but the law needs to be that there has to be a way that nothing in the bill can be included that isn't part of the statement of the bill. If the bill is for X,
how would we get behind that?
I mean that to me,
a lot of it's you state senators that have promised their constituents something, so then they kind of throw on, like, hey, the Kennedy Center,
right? And it's just like, fuck that, Jesus Christ. Which is weird because that was a Pelosi sticking point, and what does Pelosi care about the Kennedy Center? She's from San Francisco.
Kennedy Center's in New York.
It's in D.C.
In D.C. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the Performing Arts. It's the National Performing Arts Center in D.C.
It's because D.C. doesn't have a true representative in Congress, so that's why they feel like they need a little bit of say.
Sure, why not?
I don't know. I'm spitballing.
Why? I mean, again, I'm a huge fan of the arts. I think the arts are important. I think we need to have them. I think we need to encourage them. I think that's one of the things that I'm okay with the federal government spending money on, in encouraging the arts and stuff like that, because it is important for society. And it's the one thing it's the one thing that makes me break some of my principal rules on how I feel about the baseball stadium project right now. Like it's not arts, it's sports, but it's leisure activity, it's escapism, it's all the different things that are important to a society from time to time. I would like to have the baseball stadium here in Knoxville.
I almost sent it to you. I think there was an article on the local news website yesterday.
By the way,
I was talking about it, but I'd already sent you like 2 or 3 other articles.
And I tried to do my homework. I didn't do 100%, but I did most of it. Did you watch that YouTube video I sent?
Is that the one you sent in Messenger?
Yeah.
No.
It's an Amazon ad?
No, not yet.
Okay. I'll come back to that. Or we can do it now. It doesn't matter. It was just weird. Okay, so I'll hook it up. I'm gonna play it for you guys because it's an advertisement. I don't think Amazon's gonna get pissed that I'm advertising for them on here, even though they're not paying me. They might. I'll take my chances. We'll see what happens. Let me find it in here. So essentially, it's an Amazon ad. It's a lady who's advocating for STEM programs.
And students that identify as female typically...
Hold on, let me back it up. That's the important part.
Students of color and students that identify as female typically do not have access to high-quality computer science and STEM education.
Okay, so that first line is really what caught me on it. It's like, so again, it's...
Students of color and students that identify as female typically do not have access to high-quality computer science and STEM education.
Okay. So it goes on from there, and she's like, so it's some Amazon, philanthropic effort that they're doing things to try to help students of color and students that identify as female as having access to better STEM education. It's like, I get the student of color part. It makes sense. Very often schools that are primarily of color have funding issues and stuff like that. They don't do as well with a lot of the different programs, availabilities and stuff like that. And those, I get that one. But who are students that identify as female?
I guess if they explicitly said females, maybe they felt like they would be excluding the trans community that aren't biologically female but identify as female.
I mean, so to me that means girls, period. And either girls or transitioned into girls. But to me that statement says girls don't have the same access to STEM education as boys do. If I understand
in our past history, yes, that is true.
So how, I don't understand. So like my kids go to a school that they have a STEM program and the girls aren't allowed in it, but my boys are?
No, but I would say on average, the students that are selected, or I don't know how you get into STEM, if you have to be recommended. I mean, I know back in middle school they had some kind of like technology club that you could join. Right.
But like we have the STEM Academy here in Knoxville, but that's a separate high school that's more focused on that.
Right.
But maybe, and again, this is me reading into this commercial. It's very vague. It's very unclear. But STEM programs are available on all different levels and all different specifics in most schools.
Anyone, but I would say some of those you almost have to have a teacher kind of take you under their wing to almost kind of like, hey, you seem to be excelling in math and science. Like, we have this great STEM program that, I think you would be great for.
Okay, so the recommendations aren't as high for girls as they are for boys, is what you're saying, is what we're inferring. Not you're saying that as a fact, which that's the inference that we're making.
That's the inference that I would.
Okay, that's where I was really caught up on it, because it's like, I don't know, access is because the way it says they don't have access to. Because to me, access to means it's there and it's available to them if they decide to pursue it.
Right.
And I get what you're saying, and that might be part of it that I wasn't thinking about, that, which I still find that kind of hard to believe. But just to run down a little bit, okay, so girls don't do science, and so the teacher's not pushing them to pursue it. Right. I just don't know if I have a hard time believing that that's still a regular thing in a lot of schools.
I mean, you would like to think it's not, but I think we would be remiss to think it isn't happening.
I don't. I mean,
I want to say it's not happening on a grand scale, but I know it's still out there.
Right.
We still have a lot of old teachers,
but again,
that are set in their ways one way or
right.
another.
I agree, right. But again, it says don't have access to. It'd have to be on a scale if that statement's true.
I mean, that's when they talk about kind of implicit bias, and I heard an interesting thing the other day. I want to say it was courts in Israel that were they looked at judgment claims made by judges, and they had a pretty wide swath of judgments that had been looked at. And one of the things they found that some of the people that had literally the same charges, almost identical cases, what came down to the deciding factor was how soon after the judge had something to eat.
I can see that.
Was how
they say
how
that,
well or how bad their sentence was.
Yeah, they say if you're getting surgery, always do it in the morning.
They were like, if you ask these judges, why they, decided one way or another, they could quote all these, legal cases and philosophical points, but
it's really because
what it actually
hungry.
Came down to, was like they were a little bit happy.
Fuck that guy, I was hungry.
They weren't hungry anymore.
Well, yeah, they say that.
If you ask them, they're like, no, that wasn't it at all.
Yeah, they say that with if you're ever gonna have a surgery, always schedule it in the morning.
Yeah.
Because in the afternoon the doctors are checking out.
To an extent, yeah. If they've already done 2 or 3 other surgeries.
Yeah. So
they're not quite exactly on their A plus game. They're still on their A game, but not their A plus game.
But that's one of those that it brings up a good kind of how do we do something about that? Like if that's.
And that's why I kind of tied it into what they call implicit bias. Like it's not something people are consciously doing, but it's something that's kind of in the back of our minds that you don't really realize.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just I don't know that.
I mean, it's nothing that humans want to admit whatsoever. It's like no.
Well, but I mean, and in this day and age, admitting it's almost as bad as doing it intentionally. Like just admitting it's maybe I don't know.
Right.
I didn't do it on purpose. I wasn't consciously like fuck that girl. I don't want her in fucking STEM classes. But it's like no, maybe I do have some sort of bias that I don't understand. That's almost as bad as being like fucking David Duke and being openly racist or openly sexist or something like that. Right. In the way we reacted socially to it. Fire them, burn them at the stake, whatever the fuck it is. That's how we react to it now. It's like there's no path to redemption and be like, I think I screwed up. I think I could do better about this one particular thing. Well, too late now. You told us, so you need to go. But yeah, anyway, I don't know. Like I said, it just caught me. It caught me as weird as that girls. Basically, it says to me that girls don't have the same access, and it's like, well, how do you quantify that number? Because again, because another one that we're not allowed to talk about either is preference.
We're not allowed to talk about it.
I mean, we'll talk about it, but we don't talk. It's not talked about much, in that, because it's always when you always talk about the gender pay gaps and all that stuff. It's like,
I mean, preference
is women have different preferences than men in their line of work. They have different priorities in what they want out of their work than men do, and that's it.
Overall,
it explains the pay gap. Sure. Like how many girls do you see on Deadly Sketch? Girls don't like doing jobs where they might die at them.
Okay.
I'm saying it's a preference.
But they've pointed out time and time again that men and women doing the same job getting paid differential pay.
So I've heard it, but I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard it, but it's like I like most of the specifics I saw were Max's example, where and you made the joke about, well, maybe you shouldn't have kids, and that was you quoting somebody calling bullshit on it, and I get it, but that you and I are me and the wife are lawyers, and we both start in a practice at the same time of each other. She takes time off to have kids and raise the kids. I continue working.
Right.
I now have 3 more years experience than she does because she took that time off.
Right.
Is that fair because she took time off with kids? No. But I still have 3 more years experience at the job, so I'm getting paid more when she comes back to work. We both been out of school for the same time. We've both been lawyers for the same amount of time. I've just actually been a working lawyer longer than she has, so I get paid more.
Okay.
Is that unfair? Is that inaccurate?
I mean, in that one specific instance, yes, you would then, in your case, have 3 more years of experience would that could garner you more pay. Yes,
because that's what I'm saying. Like
but I'm saying they've found men and women in the same profession for the same amount of time doing the same job, getting paid different amounts of money, time and time again.
But going back to that,
just like cherry picked statistics.
But going back to that priorities thing, what's important to different people and how they work the job. One of the things that dudes are willing to do more than females are, and it's another statistical thing that there's been studies on. Dudes are willing to ask for the raise. They're willing to ask for the promotion. Girls want the promotion bestowed upon them, and I don't mean that derogatory at all. It's they want to be noticed for
I think that's.
There's been studies on that too. Like it's literally.
I'd be curious to read them, but I mean, I'm of that group of people that I don't think I should have to ask for a raise. I think my merits, should stand for.
I agree with you as well.
But it gets to a point, it doesn't hurt to speak up,
right? Or it can.
Because I would think myself as a boss. I keep having this guy that keeps coming in that wants to like toot his own horn. It's like, you know what, Jimmy, you can get the fuck out the door now.
I agree. Or it's depending on the job, it's I don't pay attention because everything's running like it's supposed to.
Right.
And Jimmy comes in and be like, hey, man, remember when I did this? Hey, man, I'd like a little bit.
I mean, there's variables to all the situations.
It calls attention to the fact that, okay, you deserve it, and maybe 5 other guys do too. And a good boss is going to say, you're right, Jimmy.
Right.
And then he's going to look at everybody else's statistics and numbers and data and all that different stuff and be like, hey, Jimmy, you're right. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to give you 10 cents an hour and I'm going to give this guy and this guy and this guy 10 cents an hour because all 4 of you guys, all 5 of you guys, or girls, have been kicking ass taking names. But
I mean, I could be wrong, but I would like to think that that's not necessarily a gender-related issue. That's just a personality-related issue.
But
I think it goes.
Is gender not? Do genders not have differences personality-wise?
Yes, males and females alike have different personalities.
Okay.
Can you stereotype a male personality that isn't there in females? No.
But
I think you have all the full spectrum on males and females.
But there are like if you're going to put it on a bell curve, there's different points on the bell curve that women fall on more often than men do. And men fall off more than either. Yes, there are females that are super aggressive go-getters. They're going to tell you every day about how kick-ass they are at their job and they want more money to do their job and blah, 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 blah. But you also have dudes that do that. But if you take all the females that are in the same profession, all the males that are in the same profession, and you pick out different characteristics, females are going to average a different place on these different characteristics on average. And yes, they're going to go all the way across the spectrum, but on average, they're going to bulk. They're going to bell curve like everything else on the planet bell curves. And they're going to bell curve over one spot on a particular trait, and males are going to bell curve with a high point at a different spot on that same trait as females do. And that aggressiveness is one of those things that males tend to bell curve higher than females do.
I don't see it. I did hear something interesting on aggressiveness. It was a neurologist or neuropsychologist. It's really interesting. Robert Sapolsky, I believe is his name.
Okay.
Really interesting.
I've heard the name. I don't know what I mean.
Somewhere it's from one of the western states, but there is a professor at one of the western colleges, or maybe in California. Anyway,
fucking liberal.
He made an interesting point talking about like testosterone and how most people when they talk about testosterone they equate testosterone with aggressiveness. Mm-hmm. And they actually did a study with some monkeys, and they kind of did the chart where if you had, broke it down into you've got five male, chimpanzees, A, B, C, D, and E, and F. For the 5, you essentially got, your number 1, your number 2.
5 is just an E, no, you need an F.
I stopped at E.
Okay.
Did I?
No, you said F.
Okay, sorry.
Check the record.
I don't do mental math well.
It's okay.
But they, if you had like this chart of essentially like A being the dominant male and D being the E being the 5th down the line,
right? You
would assume if they gave that number 3, that one right in the middle, a bunch of testosterone, that he would then become aggressive and start challenging, B and A for their position. But what they found was when they gave them testosterone, they actually. And it was like some crazy, like 10-fold went after the 2 below them.
But they were more aggressive with the 2 below them than they were before. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because you were telling me about this.
But it was more like it was more reinforcing.
Right.
I guess
the hierarchy that's in place. It's like, yeah, it's injecting.
Well, it was giving them basically not really like the courage to not challenge somebody else, but it just that wanting to like reestablish that they were above them.
Right.
It wasn't making them necessarily more aggressive. To where you think aggressiveness would go after those higher. In all logic.
That'd be a fun.
I'm not explaining it quite as well, but I mean.
Right, but that'd be one of those definition of terms. Yes, the hypothesis was when they added
it just goes to the common misconception, it is a common misconception. Most people assume testosterone with aggressiveness, and yet women have just as much testosterone, if not more, as men as well.
To channel AC, here's where I'm caught for a second here. Is that it's not clear from your explanation, at least, that it's not adding aggressiveness. It is adding aggressiveness. It's just where the aggressiveness is directed was not what was expected from the hypothesis. The hypothesis is we're going to add the testosterone. They're going to be more aggressive. They're going to move up the hierarchy because they're more aggressive. Instead, we added the testosterone. They were more aggressive, but they used that aggression downhill on the hierarchy that was already in place. That's what I'm understanding of what you're telling me. They were more aggressive with the lower males than them.
But it had nothing to do with aggression.
But but they were more. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is like what they were more against the D and E males. So the C male gets a testosterone shot,
right.
And the data showed that they did X to the D and E males. That they were more assertive they were more protective when the D and E males were around. That's what from what I'm understanding, what you're telling me is that the difference shown in the data was that they treated the D's and E's differently than they did before, in a negative way.
In a negative way, because before they did that, they had like actual numbers for how often the different letters or different chimpanzees got into fights.
Right.
And essentially, that one in the middle, after giving testosterone, gave up totally on the two above him and didn't fight them anymore, but only fought those below him.
So it made him smarter.
No.
I don't know. I'm trying to see what I'm trying to wrap my head around what this data is telling. Okay, so
I'll have to go back and rewatch.
So same number of fights, but none up, all down.
I think it was an actual increase in fights. It was more just kind of like trying to reestablish dominance or exerting
their spot on the tones. Okay, I don't know. I don't know that it. Because I guess we're assuming in the term aggressiveness that they're going to go after more than what they are. So if they're a C, if we add aggressiveness through testosterone in the theory, that they're going to go after B and then eventually A with that extra testosterone.
Right.
But what you're telling me is that
that's what we would assume. Yeah, if you make someone more aggressive, they're going to go after anybody and everybody. I mean, just like people get a little bit of liquid courage in them and start going after.
Right.
That.
So, but it's not. But to me, what it's not saying that. It's not saying that they're more or less aggressive at all, or they are. That's what I'm confused about.
I think he was more trying to point out that we always associate testosterone with aggressiveness, when they can actually point to a field study to where it's not exactly making.
But no. But I guess that's where I'm confused. Is that the term aggressiveness, we're assuming means they want to move up. And so the study says they're not more aggressive moving up, but they are more interactive with down the hierarchy.
Basically just being more of a dick or more of an asshole.
Okay.
Which is not really considered aggressive.
That's what I'm confused about. Because I don't know. Because aggressive, and I'm trying to think of what a better word would be for what I'm thinking of. What's implied here is wanting to achieve more. There's a better word for that. They're trying to achieve more. They're trying to get higher in the game. Trying to move up the ladder. Aggressive can be a trait to get there, but they're ambitious.
Okay.
And so I think that's where I'm confused. I think like what it seems to me that you're inferring is that aggression and ambition are the same thing.
I think ambitious would make them want to go after you have ambition, you want something greater than what you have.
That's
already.
what right. That's what I'm getting at. Is that the way you
what they're doing.
Right, but the way you illustrated that is that we figured if testosterone adds aggression, that is also going to lead to ambition. That they're going to use that aggression for their ambitions. But what the study's showing is they're not going after. They're not being ambitious with it. They're just being aggressive.
We'll stick a pin in that one.
I'm just like
we'll have to watch that one together. I meant to rewatch it because it had some rather other interesting points.
But you know what I'm saying? Like it's I feel like it's twisting the words aggression and ambition together in a way that may or may not be fair to what they were trying to study. And again, I'm just trying to understand from your explanation of it. I haven't seen it.
Like I said,
either.
I'm probably pissed poorly explaining it.
All right, so we got into COVID shit and other bullshit, and the other one was future. What's going on? What's next? We can go personal. We can go national. We can go politics. Like, we got elections coming up. We got city elections. You get to vote in it. I don't.
I'm bad about foreseeing the future.
I'm not asking for predictions. I'm asking for, like, goals, desires, wants, what you would like to happen. What you would like to happen, not what will happen. Or even if it is what you would like to happen, what are the steps to get there?
Peace.
Fuck you. You lose. Next.
All right. Just peace in the U.S. I mean, F the rest of the world. Huh?
Again, fuck you. You lose. Next. I mean, realistically, like, I'm not trying to be like super philosophical, and it's got to be like, you know, the whole fucking the big picture stuff. Just you here now, like, you know, fuck, I don't know, like local politics shit, like something that's going on here. Like, do you want this baseball stadium? Do you think we should do the baseball stadium?
I think it's a waste of time and energy.
I'm getting there. The more I look into it, the more I'm like.
It's been years since I went to the stadium up in Sevierville, but it looked pretty nice to me.
That's
what, they're gonna tear it down and.
Whatever, they'll do whatever. They'll do Sevier County baseball high school shit there, whatever. Who cares?
I did read the mayor in talking about putting a stadium there. He wants it to be a multi-use park to where they can have concerts and other events.
Well, I mean, like Mayor Jacobs is pitching one of my two options. My two options is we own the stadium, Boyd and the Smokies rent it from us. But the way those always fucking work is bullshit. Because they rent it from us, and then Boyd does all the shit. So
it seemed like they were leaving it all on the construction company to float everything, but I guess in them having it here, which I was assuming would come with some kind of tax incentive, but that would also be available for, you know, concerts and other events.
Right, and they want it designed to be multi-use, and I get that, and I agree with that. It should be. We should be able to do concerts there. We should be able to do. Like it would have been great to have it there this year. They could have done some sort of like walk-through Christmas lights thing. It's been great. Right. Stuff like that would be great. But the problem with that is like the way the Civic does it is, and maybe this is something I'm not catching in the game or not.
The city does own the Civic?
Yeah, we own the Civic. It's the Civic Coliseum, Civic Auditorium. But the way the Civic does it, I don't know how the auditorium sits in the mix, but I know the Coliseum, the Ice Bears are the tenant, period. Everything that goes through there goes through the Ice Bears organization. So if 1975... So
does the city own the Ice Bears?
No.
Okay.
Mike Murray and some other peeps do. Mike Murray is the operating partner. Not a bad dude. A little douchey, but not a bad dude. Tries to do what he can. But like I sat and talked to him once about it. I might... No, I don't know money. Anyway, you know, I was talking to him once, and he was talking about how... they'd have promoters come through wanting to put a concert on. And they'd come to him, and he'd be like, this is our seating, this is what we can do, blah, 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 blah. And they'd be like, okay, cool, and you got alcohol. And they're like, okay, cool. He's like, that's not enough seats. We can't bring this tour, whatever the tour is that we're doing through, to this many seats. And they're like, he's like, I've had a number of concerts that have contracted with us because they wanted to do Thompson, and they didn't have alcohol. And now they have alcohol, so Civic's going to lose all those shows. Now that alcohol is allowed in Thompson when it's a non-university event. So when you can't get a beer at a basketball game, but you get a beer when you go see Garth Brooks 6 nights in a row or whatever the fuck it is that they do down there now.
I saw Tool at the Civic.
Yeah, I mean, and I would prefer the Civic for a mountain of reasons, but the point I'm getting at is
sounded shitty in there.
If I understand it correctly, everything went through the tenant. So Ice Bears do things, they set their schedule. Right. Stuff that they don't have, they put that available. Promoters come through and they pick up those dates. ticket sales, all that shit goes to the Ice Bears. The Ice Bears just pay rent. So I don't know what the rent is. It's whatever number it is. Ice Bears pay rent for $10,000 a month. It's probably more than that. I hope it's more than that. But Ice Bears pay $10,000 a month. Concert comes in, brings in $200,000. Ice Bears pay $10,000 that month.
Right.
So I don't know. That's the weird thing. And again, it's where where one of the places I agree with Randy. It's like, if we're going to do something like that, I'd prefer that we as the county manage it so that when events come through, we make that money. The county makes that money, and it goes into county things, and we can repurpose that money into road projects and other infrastructure and put it in the schools or wherever we can put all that money. And so I don't know what the right number is to charge rent if the Smokies get to be the primary tenant like the Ice Bears are. Because if the Ice Bears are the primary, or if the Smokies are the primary tenant like the Ice Bears, it's got to be a big fucking number. And we're talking $100 million project.
I'd say there's probably a lot more baseball games than there are hockey games.
It's probably similar.
I mean, yeah, you don't have to
Not
throw
many,
down a bunch of water and wait for it to freeze.
It doesn't cost as much to run a baseball game as it does a hockey game. But, I mean, I'm thinking, I don't know, hockey's an 88-game, 90-game season, pro hockey. Baseball's like 140-something.
I think they did just release the proposed season start for, the NHL. Starting like January 16th or something, like 53 games maybe.
Yeah, I heard something about Canada. Canada's having, there's concerns about the international travel involved.
Right.
And whether Canada's going
to like a bubble amongst themselves.
Well, because there's something about like Canada has a 14-day automatic quarantine. Like if you and I wanted to go to Toronto right now,
right,
they'd let us in, but they'd put us in a box for 14 days before we can go out and
be in 14.
amongst Toronto.
They lowered all that. Even the CDC lowered that.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's something like that. And so if you're trying to do a hockey schedule where the Predators are going to the Maple Leafs to play the Maple Leafs one night,
right, the
team's got to go up there 10 days early, 15 days early, whatever it is, to quarantine before they're allowed to be in the stadium. The scheduling is an issue. Whatever the time frame is, I don't remember what the timing is, but it's something like that. That's the hit there. Anyway, back to my.
They could test and quarantine amongst themselves for that period of time.
I don't know
before they went.
That was what the article was talking about. But going back to my point is that if we're talking $100 million stadium, let's say 30 years, let's say but I mean that's the problem. Is like, okay, so we build the stadium for $100 million. And I meant to call the landlord and actually ask him this question specifically. It's like, how do you price a property? Now, so like, we have our place up in Powell, right? Like, how do you price that place? I mean, obviously the market helps you adjust it, but when you first build the thing and it's brand ass new, how do you price a unit in one of your places? Because you just spent $5 million building that thing. It's going to sit there for years. You've got a mortgage on it, probably. You're not paying it off. You're not building it out of pocket. You're probably mortgaging it. And so you want to make sure it's over the mortgage and all that kind of shit. And so I was thinking about it. It's like, you're talking $100 million, I think is what Boyd is asking us to spend. And if we 30-year mortgage that, that's $3.333 million a year. So $3.33333 $1 million a year divided by 12 months. That's $277,000 a month mortgage without interest. That's a flat, straight, no interest mortgage.
Right.
So you're looking at least $300,000 a month mortgage on that property. I would say most landlords, whether it's residential or whatever, on a $300,000 a month, like just kick it down kick it to $300 a month just for conversation's sake. If you had a $300 a month mortgage on a house and you were renting that out, you're at least renting it for $500-600.
Right.
And that's in a house where you have a next tenant in line. There's no way Boyd is going to sign a 30-year contract to lease that property for $300,000 a month. We're not going to get our money back. Yes, we are. No, we're not. I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, on direct spending to direct return from the property, we're not going to make our money back as a county. Period. Even if we talk, the only way we can do that is if we have a $350,000 a month lease that he is obligated to personally, guaranteed contract for a 30-year lease on that piece of land, on that building, which that building probably won't even last 30 years functionally.
Right. Most stadiums don't.
Right. And so that's an automatic loss right there. Now, yes, we can argue and discuss about how the economic development around it, the property taxes going up, all this different stuff is going to make that difference up, but fuck off. If we can't make direct money back from the actual project, it's not worth doing. Yeah, that's bonus money. Like if we could just break even.
He already owns property in the old city.
Right. Well, and far as I understand it, the whole Boyd thing is like he wants it there because he owns a bunch of land around it that he will develop up, and then he will have tenants, and that's where he's going to make his money, and the baseball team a little bit. But really, if he can break even on baseball, he's making his money elsewhere. Which again, good, perfect business premise. Perfect business premise.
The benefits. And
that's how that's how we as the county should treat it. If we can break even on the property, and if he pays rent to a break even point on the property, all the taxes generated around it, that's where we make our money. I'm good with that premise. It's just there's no fucking way that you're going to convince me that that Randy Boyd and the Smokies are going to pay $350,000 a month for 30 years guaranteed contract to the county for that stadium. It's not going to happen.
Right.
He's going to put like a 10-year max on it. And so you're going to do 10 years, fine, then you're going to pay $33 million a year, whatever that breaks down to monthly. Like it's got to be at least a break even on that property contractually with the Smokies and Randy Boyd personally to make sense to me. And I don't think that's going to happen. So fuck you, Randy Boyd. Build it yourself. You own the bunch of the property already. Not to mention he probably owns half the property that he wants us to buy from him to build it on, that he's going to make money off of that sale too.
All right.
I don't know. I don't know how else to put it other than that. Like, I get it. I'm down with it. Like, I have want for it.
I think Smokies used to play in Knoxville, but I mean,
I never went to a game. I've been to one Smokies game in my life.
I've been to, I think, one or two.
Or Cherokees or whatever they used to be.
The
hockey team
used to be Cherokees, yeah. It was like the
Indians
Cherokees and the Speed.
The Cleveland Indians are changing names. They will be the Cleveland baseball team.
Sure, they'll come up with something else, but yes, they decided to change their names.
Yeah, I just popped in because you said Cherokees, but okay. So baseball thing.
You said it,
right? Because I was trying to remember what the Smokies used to be.
Gotcha.
Anyway, moving forward, what are you looking forward to? What do you see in the future? It's not a prediction. It's a hope. It's a dream. It's a goal. It's a desire. I want to retire this year.
Get back to a maskless society and everybody can be happier.
I'm down with that. What does it take to get there?
Tamping down the virus.
Yeah, which we're not going to do. We're just not. I'm with you.
I mean, it may turn into a kind of flu thing to where, we're constantly coming up with it, because that was just reported on like today or yesterday that UK right now found like a slight
a variant,
a new version of
I heard about that
strain.
I mean, but like
it's not any worse, but it's
like my mom and dad have been super standoff. Like, they've been super like, if I don't need to hang out with you and your kids, I'm not hanging out with you and your kids.
Right.
They've been as best they could. They've been trying really hard to keep space. And they had a scare. One of their friends got it, and he ended up being fine. But they had a scare, and they had contact, and they got tested, and they ended up being fine, and all that kind of stuff. But they've been freaked out about it. And we've had a big bullshit logistics nightmare in this house about trying to figure out Christmas, because my mom decided she wants Christmas. And talking about the fatigue and stuff we were talking about earlier, it's like my parents, who have been very like by the book, real solid on, like, I mean, I was at the house the other day trying to find my birth certificate, and my mom came over, and my dad was like, "Hey, back up!" And my dad's yelling from the other room to make sure my mom stays 6 feet away from me. Like, that's how my parents are. But my mom wants her fucking Christmas. She doesn't care anymore.
Right.
And so with the conditions that we're already in, and as bad as it is right now, first of the year, we're going to be worse than we are right now. There's no way around it. Unless this vaccine is magical, and just getting the vaccine, it spreads through the air to the people around them and vaccinates them, because you get vaccinated and everybody in the room is vaccinated because they're near you. Case counts going up first of the year.
California just passed something that was a whole bunch of money to buy a bunch of mobile morgues and body bags.
Yeah. But I said that it goes back to our earlier point. It's like, if you're not going to, if you can't bring yourself to enforce it, don't write it. Encourage it. Tell people they need to do it. Tell them it's important.
I thought you
Beg
were like
them.
advocating like all this like, quote unquote like bullshit of like shutting stuff down.
I'm advocating for shutting stuff down.
I thought you had in the past, or for not shutting stuff down.
I am advocating for not shutting stuff down.
Okay. Then you're saying restrictions should be stricter.
Legally.
Oh.
I'm saying if you are a government and you are not willing to enforce a law that you put on the books, don't put it on the books. Makes you look like a douchebag at minimum, but really it just causes the divide between the people that are down with the law you're making and the people that aren't. And it causes backlash and turns people that are just kind of like, I don't understand what the fuck's going on right now. This is kind of stupid, into vehement anti-maskers that are out calling hoax and all this other bullshit instead of being like, I don't know. Oh shit, my aunt got sick. Okay, this is real. I need to get serious about it. But instead, it's like, this is fucking bullshit, and you're trying to cram your fucking crazy agenda down on me and blah, blah, blah. You're making more problems by forcing all these issues that are issues. Don't get me wrong. This is an issue. It's a problem.
Well, you just said it's a crazy agenda.
To the person who is pushing back on what you're doing, yes. Not to me.
So you're faulting them for not being more strict on the regulations that they passed. For not enforcing them more strictly.
I mean, if you're going to do it, you have to fucking do it. Yes. I'm not encouraging that. I don't want that. No.
So you would be okay with them?
No.
More
I would not be. I would not be okay with it.
The
No.
restrictions they've put in.
No, I would be very displeased
You're
with that.
saying if
I would be
put the
actively
restrictions in, you should enforce them. But
right. So the
if
example
they did enforce them, you would be really pissed off.
Sure.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So, in that mindset,
okay, so what are we supposed to think right now?
What are we supposed to think?
What are we supposed to think right now? They put all this shit in place. They yell and scream at the top of their lungs. They tell you you're going to fucking do all this shit. You don't mean it. You don't mean it, so fuck off. What does it matter? My point is that you're making friction where friction isn't needed by making laws that you're not going to enforce. If you're going to do it, fucking enforce it and do it. I don't agree with that. I don't like that. I don't want them to do that. But if you're going to do it, fucking do it.
Well, it's like some guys
and then
in
deal
California,
with the repercussions.
like their sheriffs literally came out and said, they're like, I don't care about this new law that's passed. We are not enforcing it.
And
then it becomes to an internal strife of,
I agree with that too. I think that's especially the sheriff that's an elected official. I think
they've tried to make a law, but how do you then get your
right? And that's a checks and balance issue, which is a weird situation and is weirder because of the situation we have. But I again, my point is I think we should be fully open. I think people, if whatever business you run, you should be able to run your business the way you want to run your business and do your thing. If you don't want to wear a mask, you're an asshole.
Yeah, so I don't remember the name of I don't know if you heard about this pizza place up in, it's not Brooklyn, Staten Island. You heard about this business up there?
Is that the one that was part of the Pizzagate thing?
No.
That was a joke. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, they were told to shut, because apparently Staten Island was like one of the worst areas like in the U.S. as far as like case counts going up or whatever.
At the time of this story, or was like back in the summer?
2 or 3 weeks ago.
The story was 2 or 3 weeks ago, or they were the worst in the country 2 or 3 weeks ago?
2 or 3. Yeah, they were one of the worst spots in the country for increase of cases.
And the story was at the same time.
Yeah, this happened a couple weeks ago. I guess they were told to shut down. They didn't shut down. Police came in and like shut them down one night. And then there was some incident. I guess they started arresting one of the owners.
Yeah, I did hear parts of the story, but go ahead.
He started driving off, and I did see the video. I mean, there's a cop standing in front of his car, and he kept driving off.
Okay.
Which, I don't know, that's like attempted vehicular manslaughter, and I think in most people's books.
Maybe.
But apparently his lawyers came out and said, they brought in, 20 cops to come arrest him or whatever and show of force or whatever. I just didn't know if you're standing up, because they put up signs, and tried to make it a play upon the whole Chaz thing that happened months ago.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They
did
tried
hear
to
parts of the story,
declare their bar an autonomous zone.
Yeah, I heard about it. Yeah.
No, it was just going off on your thing of businesses should be able to do whatever they want.
I'm not saying whatever they want, but as far as this is concerned, yes.
Run their business however they want.
Right.
That would
if
be
you want to be open
essentially
right now,
doing whatever you want.
If you want to be open right now, you should be able to be open right now. The hours mandate, the capacity mandate, it doesn't seem to be making a difference.
Why adhere to...
I mean, the Dr. O'Brien here admitted it's like it's not...
Why adhere to the fire code regulations?
It's not... as far as COVID is concerned, Dr. O'Brien in the meeting back on the way back from hunting, I was watching the meeting, he literally said, it's not you guys and what you're doing when he was talking to the Aubrey's guy.
Right.
He's like, it's not you guys, it's not what your guys doing. You guys are doing everything you can. It's those people are coming together in your restaurant and infecting each other. Those people are willing to get together and infect each other. It could be in your restaurant. It could be in their homes. It doesn't fucking matter. It has nothing to do with what the restaurant's doing. The restaurant's doing everything they can. Because I would argue, sure, there will be places that will fucking... And there still are places that are doing it. Your pizza restaurant is an example. That are going to do everything the way it was last year this time. They're just going to balls out. They're going to do their New Year's Eve party, and it's going to be wall to wall, and there's going to be people on top of each other, and they're all going to get sick. But those people are going to do it anyway, whether it's at somebody's house or at the bar. They're doing it at anyway. And so really, if I understand the data correctly, which I probably don't, if I understand the data correctly, most of these infections are happening in the households, in direct contact between people. It has nothing to do with where they are. Whether it's in a restaurant, whether it's at a grocery store, whether it's in their homes, that's where the infections are happening.
Where have you seen this?
Where's it? I mean, that's what Dr. O'Brien was saying. It's that it's happening in the restaurants, between the people in the restaurants. It has nothing to do with the restaurant. The restaurant isn't spreading the virus. It's the people in the restaurant that are getting together as individuals in the restaurant that are spreading it to each other. It's not the staff. It's the people. Where are all the infections coming from? There's no math that says it's bars and restaurants.
That's just the most likely place. Like he was saying, it's people coming together. The
right.
General public all coming together and
that wasn't what he was saying either. What he was saying was that it's the particular table. It's not my family sitting at one table and your family sitting at another table and we're infecting each other across the tables. It's me and you coming together as separate individuals that live in separate households and sitting down at a table and infecting each other. That's what he was saying. And so you and I, like we're doing right now, are still getting together. We could have done this show at a booth at Aubrey's, or we could do it right here.
Yeah.
That's my point, is those people that want to get together and be with their friends or coworkers or whatever it is that they want to do are doing it anyway. Where they're doing it is not important. Now, yes, if we had full restaurants where you had booth on booth on booth on booth, or we had a concert where there's 500 people all packed into general admission where they're shoulder to shoulder watching a band play, that is going to be bigger than what's going on currently. But that is a decision that the individuals are making to go do. At this point, you don't have an excuse to not be educated about what's going on right now.
I was going to say, you think that many people are educated on what's going on right now?
I mean, I would assume
that there's still like, I would argue 30 to 45% of the American general public that thinks this is all just a hoax and this is all nothing. And
in the best case scenario, they all infect each other and fucking die, and we kill off a big portion of this.
That's not the best case scenario.
We lose the stupid people.
But losing the stupid people doesn't stop the stupid people from infecting other people.
How are the stupid people infecting other people? Because they're going in and interacting with the other people. If you're the smart person, you're not
recklessly going about their daily life because they don't believe that this.
So the smart people, as Jesse from the Compass was saying earlier, is like, stay home. The smart people get to stay home. The smart people can afford to stay home. But stay home. Don't go around any other people. Those are the smart people that have the option to just sit in their house and not interact with other people. That's how you win. That's how you win in this game right now. That is the lesson that I have learned.
I mean, that is literally the safest thing. Yes.
Right. That's my point.
But the government knows that people still need to go out, and not everyone, is stockpiled up on food. You're still going to have to go out and buy groceries, and people are still going to want to go get takeout. They're still going to want to go out and interact with other people.
Right.
Even though, we, quote unquote, ask them, to try to limit, the amount of people you go out with.
Right. It's not, I don't know.
I mean, I think they're trying to find, happy medium's a bad thing, but they're trying to be strict, but not like straight up like Nazi styles strict.
But I think
completely shutting everything down completely.
I agree with you. I do, but
how much more pushback would there be if that ever happened? There would be a hell of a lot of that.
Sure.
So I would be part of that. They're trying to find some kind of middle ground with people. Like, all right, okay, we'll leave the restaurants open because they know how much it would affect the economics of shutting down all the restaurants. So if they try to push more restaurants into takeout, and some restaurants have totally revamped their business model because they know if they want to make money, this is how we're going to be able to survive and make money.
Right, we can deliver margaritas.
This is like the time of American ingenuity. People are coming up with some of the coolest fucking shit that people have never even thought of.
Right.
I think that's where we're going to have to learn to be kind of flexible to some extent and not just try to rest on our laurels and be like, was that the way I used to do it? I want to go back to the old times. This ain't the fucking old times.
I agree.
I do that with fucking technology.
But again,
I hate some of this new technology. But
right,
you know
my
what?
point?
If I'm going to want to survive in this coming world, I'm going to have to start figuring a lot of this shit out.
But my point is that all the levels of the trying to do the middle ground aren't doing it either. So all this middle ground is doing is pissing people off. And you're right. If we went hardcore and we went Nazi style,
it would piss off more people. Correct.
It would piss off more people. Yes.
Oh, okay. So they're doing the lesser of two evils in that aspect.
Okay, but they're I don't know that I don't even know that I agree with that statement.
Piss off less people or piss off more people? Which one are you going to pick?
Well, what's the goal?
The goal is to save lives.
Then piss off more people.
Goal.
Then piss off more people. If you know you could save more fucking lives, then piss off more people.
Really?
If
how does that help save more lives if you piss off more people?
If you literally say, if we go full martial law, you stay in your house for the next fucking month and we kill this virus off and we can go back to normal afterwards. And it actually works.
People are going to come around after 30 days. You know what? You were right. Thank you.
Probably not.
Okay. So where do you see the light at the end of the tunnel in your scenario there?
Well, okay, so then let's go the other way on our lesser of two evils.
No, I'm asking you your scenario.
What do you mean scenario?
Let's not go back the other way.
What do you mean my scenario? My scenario of if
we locked everything down to get the spread down,
right? And it actually worked, and less people die.
Okay.
I don't know how you would data function that anyway, but less people die, then you can at least be like, look, fine, I did what I did, and you can fucking hate me for it, but we're over this now, and this could have been a year-long thing, and now it's only a month-long thing. You're welcome.
How do you convince people of that?
You don't. You fail. But what's your job? If you're a fucking elected official, you don't.
Depends on your job.
You don't
if you're the health director.
You don't get reelected.
Your job is based upon how many people stay alive.
Right, and so you win if you're the health director because that's the most important person in this conversation. But if you're an elected official, you don't get you lose the next election. But you did your fucking job and you did it right, and you should be able to go home and sleep at night and be like, "Hey, I did my fucking job right."
So it would have been right to shut everything down.
I'm not saying that at all. But if we're going to stick with my scenario that I just threw out, sure. Because we don't even know if we did it today that they would actually make a fucking difference. If we said right now, lock it all fucking down. Lock it all down until every motherfucker gets a vaccine. We'll somehow magically make sure you have food and
how would that logically not make sense?
I don't know. Because California, who's been locked down since fucking March, is still one of the top countries or top
you
states
are
in the nation.
assuming that 100% of the people were socially distanced and wore masks and did everything.
They've been further in the rules of the game than we are, and they're in the same color of the state in the graph that we are. How is that not? I mean, how is that not at least anecdotal evidence to the function?
Were people being restricted from going from one place to another?
I don't know the full extent of what California was, but they don't have. You can't go to a restaurant and eat on a patio. You can't go to a restaurant and eat at all. You can only get takeout from there.
That's only happened in the past week or two.
No, it's been longer than that. It was pre-Thanksgiving.
No, it was California that were ones that were doing dining out in their parking lots.
It was pre-Thanksgiving.
So they could extend their...
Thanksgiving was they put in...
Okay. How long ago was Thanksgiving? Less than a month? Okay. I'm sorry, continue.
But is that but when did the data come out that we're talking about?
Which data?
This is post-Thanksgiving data that we were looking at.
Right.
So... the stuff that went in around Thanksgiving should show effects.
Did you see the data when they actually looked at the travel that most Americans did compared to last year was just barely down from travel from last year? Which shows you the general public did not heed they're asking of, please don't travel, please try to limit your numbers, and people still went about their business. I don't blame them. I did the same fucking thing. I went to my parents for Thanksgiving.
All right, I feel like we're on two different levels of the same conversation, and I'm saying I'm not getting my point across, but it's fine.
I'm saying the majority of the public is not doing all that they can. I'm not saying they're not doing enough, but there's still a large enough chunk of people that are half-assedly taking any measures whatsoever.
And I'm agreeing with you on that. I don't know what.
I mean, you keep trying to point out California. It's like, well, California shut stuff down.
Right,
that's with an assumption that they actually shut everything down. And you actually had sheriffs that got behind.
No, we're trying to compare. I'm trying to compare whether mandates make a difference or not.
Right.
And they don't.
You're saying California had stricter mandates.
Right.
But you're giving the example that those mandates didn't work because their case counts are still going up.
Right.
And I'm saying that your assumption would be as if the mandates people actually adhered to, and that would bring cases down. You're assuming that...
Okay, so, but either way, the mandates didn't work, is my point. Whether they're adhered to or not, the mandates didn't work. I'm agreeing with you. I doubt that it was adhered to. Sure.
Okay, then yes. Well, then you can't use that example of mandates not working as far as keeping...
Well, they're not working because whether you're adhering to them or not, the mandates are out and the case counts are still some of the worst in the country.
I mean, that'd be the same argument. If it's like, hey, we outlawed OxyContin, but, people are still dying from OxyContin, so OxyContin being illegal, that's not working.
Yes. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay. Which is a stupid fucking thought.
Why is that a stupid thought?
So just because you make something illegal and people don't do it automatically makes it a bad idea to make something illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
I mean, if it has no effect on if it has no effect on the other side, what's the fucking point? It's I didn't mean to shift it into drug war conversation, but that's exactly the whole fucking drug war thing. We spent how many $1 trillion on the drug war, and what has it done?
Put more people in jail.
Congratulations, you win.
Yeah.
Is there a win to that? I mean, who won? Who won for the drug war?
You were advocating for stricter enforcement of these mandates.
I'm not advocating for it. I'm not advocating for it at all.
I'm sorry, you said that if you're going to put mandates in place, you need to enforce them.
I mean, if you're going to fucking do it, you need to fucking do it, yes. But it better fucking work.
So which side of the fence are you on? For mandates or no mandates?
I'm for no mandates.
Gotcha.
I'm for clear, concise, to the point education to the best of our abilities.
Mandate is a requirement, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I was arguing with somebody the other day, and they're like, "It's just a mask mandate. That's not a requirement." I'm like, I think you're misunderstanding the word.
The problem with it, the problem with that part of it, though, you're right. There is a weirdness to that. Is that it puts the obligation to enforce the mandate on people that aren't people that should have to enforce it. Being like a business has to, the mandate is that you have to wear a mask in a business. Well, it puts the business on the hook for making sure you wear a mask in their business instead of it being an actual law on the books.
In the same way it puts the business on the hook for cooking their food to a certain percentage and keeping their things refrigerated to a certain temperature.
No, it's not the same.
It's kind of the same.
No, because that is their employees doing that thing, not guests coming in. You could put a mandate in that says you have to. The mandate says you have to wear pants in public.
Right.
Now, are you going to get arrested on the side of the street for not having pants on, just walking around in your underwear? Is it illegal? Is it illegal?
Underwear, no. Nudity, that's public indecency.
But is it illegal for you to walk the streets in your underwear?
No.
But it is a mandate to go into publicly available places to have pants on. Who's responsible?
See, I don't know if that's a business thing or if that is a health department thing.
But who is responsible for...
most places say no shirt, no shoes, no pants, no service.
Right. But I'm saying who is responsible for... enforcing said mandate.
It's a business.
That's the difference. And so the person you were joking about saying, well, it's not required, it's a mandate. Well, it's required for the business because the business was mandated to make you do it. So it's a requirement to the business, not to the individual. And so the business has to bear the front of the confrontation over the mandate.
No, the mandate is on the general public. It just then, unfortunately, fell upon the businesses to be, if they want to operate, they're the ones that are supposed to be.
Right, and they have the punitive damages for not making their customers do the thing that the state told them to do. Not that I wanted them to do as the business, but what the state wants them to do. I could give a shit whether or not you come in with a shirt on or not. It has nothing to do with my business. If you want to come in topless, great. But I have to make you wear a shirt because I sell food.
So people stopped going to Walmart because they started requiring masks to go inside?
No, they just take them right off like Bax does.
They didn't. Gotcha. Huh.
Right.
Because why?
Because Walmart's not enforcing the mandate?
Their employees started getting threatened with their lives for just being like, hey, will you please put a mask on?
Right. Because Walmart's not enforcing it.
Right.
Instead of the police enforcing it like a law would be.
So the police should be doing it.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do it, if it's going to be a legal issue, then yeah, it should be the police issue. It shouldn't be my issue as a business.
Gotcha.
I should have the support. I would have the support with the mandate, but I should have the legal support and not having to fucking deal with it. It's not my fucking problem. I can choose to put my employees at risk. My employees can choose to come and be at risk at work.
So businesses shouldn't, try to protect, people from stealing.
See, this thing
all upon
this thing right here pisses me off. This thing right here pisses me off because what you imply with what you're saying, whether you mean to or not, what you imply with what you're saying is that every business, everywhere, all the time, all they give a shit about is taking advantage of everything they can to make as much as they can and do all this kind of shit. And they could give a fuck less if they get customers sick. They could give a fuck less if they get a customer killed. Doesn't matter. There's this implication in what you're about to say or what you were saying that I interrupted. I apologize. There's an implication in that if I run a restaurant that, well, if it wasn't a rule, I would send you raw chicken. I would send raw chicken out. That I wouldn't give a fuck if my employees wash their hands or not. It's the only reason I make sure my staff is clean and do their job correctly is because the health department says I have to. I would gladly run a dirty ass shithole fucking restaurant and get everybody that comes in there sick all the fucking time because that's how I make my money. There's an implication in that, and that's fucking bullshit. Yes, there are people out there that do that. There are people that are out there that do that with the health department coming in and checking on them.
I agree.
They exist. The health department doesn't fucking make a difference on that. Restaurants that want to run their shit right, run their shit right. Restaurants that don't.
Right.
I
totally agree with that.
And when they have their annual inspection, they fail it, and then a week later the health department comes back and they pass it, and they go right back to doing their bullshit. But if you're gonna run a restaurant and you want to do a good job, you send out good food, cooked correctly, that doesn't get people sick. Because when people get sick and die from eating your food, you go out of business. It has nothing to do with the health department. It has nothing to do with some mandate to do this shit correctly according to the state. It's the right thing to do as a business. Make good food. Don't get people sick when they come to eat at your restaurant. That is natural. It has nothing to do with the fucking state. And that drives me nuts. This assumption that all businesses wouldn't do it if it wasn't if they didn't have to. I apologize. I got a little hot there, and I didn't mean to shit on you on that, but it really bothers me because it's wrong. I agree that they exist and that there are people out there that do it. But there are restaurants that get 99s and 100s. I take that back. There are restaurants that get 75s and 80s on their health inspection every time. That do great food. Take care of everything. You're not going to get sick eating their food. If they get 80s because of stupid little bullshit random check marks that are way down on the health department checklist that don't make any fucking sense to anything. I've told the story 1,000 times. I don't know if I told on the show or not. I was working for a fucking fast food place for a long time, and they were huge on making sure we got 100 on our health inspection. I got fucking bitched out because we got a 99. We got -1 because I had a onion wrap, like the outside of an onion. We get 50-pound bags of fucking onions in those weird mesh bags. In our storeroom where we had our onions, there was onion skin on the ground. We lost a point on our health inspection for that. And I got bitched at from my boss because of that. It had zero to do with any health impact on anybody anywhere. But I had some shit on the floor from an onion skin and lost a point. That's how important the health department inspection is. I didn't have raw chicken. I didn't have people touching shit they weren't supposed to touch shit. Everybody had their gloves on except for me. Like all the fucking real shit that actually fucking matters to you as the consumer, we were kicking ass taking names on. I had an onion skin on the floor and I lost a point. The health inspection is a joke. Doesn't mean shit. I worked at that fucking bar up on the north side of town for a long time. I ate there all the time, but I wouldn't suggest ever eating there. I don't know. I haven't been there in a long time, but when I was there, I did the best I could with the kitchen I had. But it was not a clean kitchen by any stretch of the imagination. But we passed the health inspection every time. And I always say this too. I'm sorry, this gets me hot. Go get the health. Find a health inspector. Have them come inspect your kitchen in your house. Without warning. Just show up one day and inspect your kitchen in your house. I bet you fail it. And that goes to everybody listening right now too. I bet you fail it. When's the last time you cleaned your trash can?
You're asking me? Or
yes, I'm actually asking you. And I'm asking the listeners too. When's the last time you cleaned your trash can?
It's been months.
Yeah.
Since I try to just like pour a little bleach in there and like slosh it around, just cleaning out the inside of it.
You know, like again, going back to this fast food place I was working for a while. Like, I mean, the number of times a day that we change trash in the kitchen trash cans.
I've gotten sick from those.
Do what? From trash cans? From licking trash cans?
No, from the restaurant.
From that one?
Yes.
Good. Fuck those guys.
I know that like specific branch, but yes, from that company. Yes.
I mean, but I'm saying like,
it's par on the course when you're cooking fast food for people. Sometimes things get undercooked a little bit. Sometimes things stick in the warmer for longer. I mean,
and it's part of the expectation.
We worked at years ago, a major chain of fast food.
McDonald's, bitch, say it. Fuck those guys.
Yeah, Mickey D's. And I made it a point when it might have been the day you got fired, but I made it a point to start, because one of the supervisors was there. I made it a point to start throwing away food that were in the warmers when the timer went off.
Past their timer, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 15 minutes. You know, the eggs or whatever. Like, oh, we're supposed to throw all these away now. Like they're past time. Like, throw them in the garbage can. Like, we need fresh eggs. But more often than not, like 98% of the time, that stuff stayed in the warmers longer than it should have.
Well, longer than their system said it should have, but yeah. Right. And that's and that's based on, I mean, those numbers are based on all sorts of crazy shit, on crazy scenarios. Like, I'm sure the onion skin thing, like shit on the floor,
right,
was like one time, one thing, and there was some connection to some lawsuit somewhere or some kind of shit. And it's a way to, I mean, I don't know. It's just a fucking racket. It's bullshit. It does, I mean,
maybe it was a weird racket game with the system itself. You know, maybe the guy can't show up everywhere and give hundreds to everybody. He's got to give a 99 to show that he's doing his job and actually finding stuff.
I mean, it doesn't matter, but it's still.
It just happened in one place. Like, oh fuck, I gotta find something.
It doesn't change the main point in that.
Maybe the guy hadn't eaten and he was just in a bitchy mood.
You might be totally right.
You guys didn't offer him any food before we started. Like, hey, would you like a burger?
But I'm saying it goes down. It's the inference in that these things are in place because if they weren't, it would all be fucking shit.
Because it used to be. Before we literally had health inspectors, things were much worse. Before we literally started requiring restaurants, like, hey, if you want to serve food to people, we need to make sure you're actually
right. But somehow we weren't in as a litigious environment then either, and that's what's weird to me. Is we were so litigious. We fucking lawsuit this, that, and the other all the fucking time.
Because for years it wasn't against the law. It was essentially buyer's remorse. Like, oh, sorry, you got sick.
But it doesn't have. But
sorry.
But litigation isn't necessarily legal. You did damages. Damages aren't a legal thing. That's the whole thing about lawsuits. Is it's not illegal. It's
all burden of proof.
But you did damages.
You have to prove.
Right, but I'm saying like, but how does that make? Fuck, I don't know. All right, whatever. I don't know how to argue this one.
Yes.
I'm not saying no, you didn't fucking win. I'm just saying I don't know how to fucking argue. Like, it's how are we in a place where if I can't prove, I don't know. I mean, food's a weird one because it's hard to prove when you what you put in your belly and the timing of getting sick and that kind of shit too. I get that, right. But I mean
that's why they have you're not supposed to bring outside food from other places. I ran into it in a restaurant I worked at. People want to like bring like pizza in. It's like, no, we're a fucking restaurant. Like, no, because once you bring that food in here, I can't prove whether or not like the water that we just gave you or the soda we just gave you made you sick when you got sick off the pizza you brought in from Pizza Hut or whatever.
Right.
That's why businesses have that rule, like no outside food.
Oh, so I always put that because I want you to buy my food.
Well, I mean that's part of the main point, but it's also from a legal standpoint. When you can
see, but I would look at that.
No longer prove that something. Since
right,
you were the last place they visited, they're like, well, I had some of your water, like, it wasn't the Pizza Hut I had, like it was the water that I drank.
See, because
you can't prove one way or another.
But that would be
you have no cult. You are.
But that would be the other. The obligation would be the other way. If you brought Pizza Hut, if I ran a restaurant, and you brought Pizza Hut in and bought a soda for me. And got sick and tried to sue me saying my soda got you sick, I'd be like, no, your pizza did. You have to prove this is my soda, not not your. I don't have to prove it was your pizza that got you sick. I don't have to prove anything. You have to prove that it was my soda. If it's a liability issue, I'm encouraging people to bring outside food because then I could blame it on whatever the other thing is. You have to prove it. I don't know where that food came from. That's your problem. Legally speaking. Or lawsuit wise.
Yeah, burden of proof should be on the actual accuser.
Right. It is on the it's supposed to be.
Right, but I don't know if it would be on the defendant to then have scientific tests done to prove one way or another.
I mean, I can't scientifically test your pizza because you ate it.
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, that's beside the point. Come on, give me something you're looking forward to.
Semantics.
Give me something like actually truly positive, like something real. Come on. 2021. Tell me something good. Or bad. Tell me something you actually see happen in 2021.
I don't see much happen in 2021. It's kind of hard to predict at this point.
You're a bummer, dude. Come on.
Yeah, that's me, bruh.
You just said earlier you try not to be negative about everything.
I'll try.
Did you see that?
I'm hopeful about everything.
Did you see that somewhere?
I mean, I did get a little bit of hope when I saw that the NHL was planning to start, within the next month.
Did you see that? I guess as part of Operation Warp Speed is there's Pfizer and Moderna have no liability for side effects of their vaccines.
No, it wouldn't surprise me.
That's fucked. And you wonder why I don't want to take it. I have no intention on getting one.
Well, do you? I'm sure many.
Are you gonna get one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure many of these drug manufacturers have fine print whenever you start taking some of their drugs. They've already warned you, like, side effects may include blah, 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 blah.
Everything in the fucking dictionary, check.
And I've thought about a lot of ones I've heard in the past, like, year or so. I don't know if it's for, like, I want to say one of them was, like, plaque psoriasis or some other shit, but a lot of the side effects I can remember hearing recently are increased susceptibility to infection. That basically it lowers your immune system.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's if that's
Which, I mean, I'm assuming that gets them out of any legal
right. That's a good question.
Like,
right.
Hey, we've already warned you. Like, hey, you take this drug. Like,
well, that's the question. Can announcement of side effects do announcement of side effects preclude you from getting sued for a side effect?
I mean, maybe that's why they throw in like
every
the whole
fucking
plethora of side effects. So, like, no, we've already told you. Like, I've literally heard yawn listed as a side effect on a TV commercial.
I've not heard that one. That's good.
That's what I've only heard it a couple times. But it's very comical.
Yawning.
I'm just like yawn. And it may have even been for, like, one of the Lunesta, one of the sleep aids or whatever.
Which, that's not a side effect. That's the fucking goal.
Right. Well, a lot of people have been, like, tripping off that shit, like having, like, crazy, weird side. I mean, there's just so many fucked up side effects with all these, like, drugs that are prescribed. And the weirdest ones are the ones that say, like, don't even tell you what the drug is for. It's like, ask your doctor if this drug is right for you.
That is, and again, my libertarian brain goes weird on this one.
Like, making a list of all these drugs, like, hey, doc, is this good for me? Is this good for me?
Right.
I don't know what it does, but I saw a commercial.
We are one of the only countries in the world that allows advertising directly to the consumer from drug manufacturers, even if it's a prescribed only drug.
That's kind of messed up.
Yeah. And again, that's like free market every fucking thing. Okay, advertise your shit. But it is weird to me that we're one of a very few short list of nations that allows drug manufacturers to advertise to the consumer that needs a prescription to get.
Yeah. I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, but they knew someone that was a former pharmaceutical rep, and they basically had like a $40,000 like yearly limit in which to unofficially, butter up doctors or whatever.
Yeah.
Take them out to lunch, buy them dinner, buy lunch for all
Sadly,
the staff.
$40 grand is not a bunch of money, but it's still a fucking, I mean,
to spread out throughout a year, yeah, when you're buying lunch for doctors and stuff. Right. I mean, that's more than a lot of people make in a year.
Right. But it's
but they would get bitched at if they didn't spend their limit.
Yeah.
If they only spent $30 grand. They're like, you still had 10 more grand. Like,
what are you doing?
Yeah.
We need to get more drugs
when
out.
I worked at a restaurant, we had one guy that was a pharmaceutical rep. I think he actually owns a couple restaurants around town now. But I remember doing like a big delivery for doctors at the one of the main hospitals. And he had me in a room I don't even think I was supposed to be in. I think it was like surgery that was getting ready to go down. And I was like, I had like, big boxes like full of, entrees. And I'm like, I just need to know like where I need to leave this. Like you need to wait in there. I'm like, okay, like you're not supposed to be in here. I'm like, okay. Like I'm just here to drop off food.
Just
I'm like,
fucking sign the check,
and I'm
bitch.
here just for the pharmaceutical rep, like delivering stuff to a hospital, and then I'm in a room that I'm not supposed to be in.
Yeah, who let me in here?
Like I'm just the delivery guy. Like I don't know. This guy told me to bring food for a bunch of you guys.
You're the dude from the beginning of Home Alone, delivering the pizzas. It's like,
no.
Do you live here? Yes. You got money? No. Do you live here? No. Yeah, I get that. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, that's a weird spot with the way the pharmaceuticals work, but yeah.
But it's all just incentivizing the doctors to then prescribe these specific
because it's
drugs.
it's a game of who's paying for it, and They know it's going to get paid for. Their end's going to get paid. And then it's
the contract. You start getting a bunch of like free samples. And when I got shingles, my doctor had all these like free samples they gave me of like all this cream.
Right, but what was he prescribing to somebody else because he got the free samples for that thing?
True.
And that's the game. I mean, that's what they're playing. But and I don't know.
That's what they look at. How much of that drug, did that doctor prescribe of this specific drug?
And it's a I don't know. Fuck it. It's a protection racket on that one, especially on the pharmaceutical side of it. Like the big pharma's got protections on what they're doing. They're not going to get hurt somewhere in the game. Whatever
they make
it is.
Enough money to have enough badass lawyers on retainer.
It's not just badass lawyers. They have enough laws that are written on their behalf as well.
That too.
They have enough things that are like some fucking earmark on some fucking bill that you can't say no to. We're writing the We Love Children Act. And how do you vote against the We Love Children Act? You got to vote for that. How you're not going to win re-election if you vote against the We Love Children Act.
Right.
And way deep down in there something about how Moderna can't get sued for XYZ. Oh, okay. Well, that's just that's compromise, I guess. We got to get that compromise so we can get this thing out to the people.
Should make Trump liable. He's going to take credit for this Operation Warp Speed and vaccines coming out.
I agree with that. Sure.
I don't know why they just dawned on me.
Yeah,
he wants to take credit for it, you take the blame.
All right, and I'll agree with you. But when Biden takes credit for it, he takes liability too.
Has Biden tried to take credit for it?
I've
heard this by a couple people.
I didn't say he has yet.
Big, retort.
But he will. That's my prediction for 2021 is we get at least one new war.
He has no way to take credit for it.
We get at least one new war, and Biden takes credit for the vaccine. Biden takes credit for the recovery. Maybe not the vaccine particularly, but he takes credit for the recovery in getting us out of the vaccine. I think he will. I think it'll be part of it.
Okay, you're changing your stance. Gotcha.
But he will take credit.
You realize that him taking credit for the vaccine.
No, he'll take credit for the distribution of the vaccine or some bullshit like that, and that he helped us get through and usher in the finality of COVID-19. He'll get us in at least one new war.
From what I've seen, he's been pretty collective as far as trying to bring both sides together. And
he's been diverse, I'll give you that.
Diverse? In what way? Has he talked about multiple different things?
No, go ahead. He's been collective.
Yeah, as far as his stance on the whole, two-party system or whatever, of trying to bring people together. Maybe I'm jaded by what little news I've seen on it, because I try to look for other shit. We kind of talked about, coronavirus kind of being at the forefront. I try to find all the other stories that are going on in the world just to not miss out on everything else that's going on. Not too long ago, there was
he put a gay guy in as
fucking iceberg. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah. Because it was something about like Georgia or something like that, and I was all confused because I thought it was like some iceberg that broke off and it was floating down to Georgia.
South Georgia Island.
Right, but it's South Georgia Island, and I was damning the British for their world conquering, and all the shit's named after their fucking royalty at the time. So it's all Victoria this, Georgia that.
Sun never sets on the empire.
The United States Empire, you're right.
That was a British Empire.
Well, it's the United States Empire now.
You think we still have that many territories?
I'm pretty sure we get pretty fucking close. I mean, I would say that the sun never sets on American soil.
Remember when we went to London in high school, them pointing out that I guess in London is one of the few places that the American embassy does not own the land that the embassy is on. It goes back like hundreds of years as far as like familial land being owned by certain people, especially in like downtown London.
And actually, to go back in statement is the sun never sets on the Queen's land either. I believe I saw this a while back, but I saw a video on it. It's like as far as the number one property owner in the world is the Queen of England. By square mileage or some shit like that. because anything that's part of the Commonwealth, she owns legally. So, like, Australia is still technically her property.
I'm pretty sure they broke off from
Canada. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't really know how that.
I don't remember exactly how it broke down, but
like
it's something.
They still say, God save the Queen, but
right.
they're not a province of.
Yeah, I don't exactly know what
anymore.
I'm not exactly sure what like the legal speak of it is, but essentially anything that is. I think parts of India is still hers. Like it's weird, but anything that is
Hong Kong ain't.
Yeah, it should be. It'd be better if it was. Yeah, our that agreement to get to leave was not in the residents' there's best interests, but that's a huge story.
That started like 100 years ago. It was like when it was finally.
Yeah, it was a 99-year lease. It was a 99-year termination agreement or whatever. But yeah, that was
okay. In 1999, it's going to change hands.
Yeah, that's
They're like, oh shit! Oh, we need a 10-year kind of transition period.
But that was a huge story from this year that kind of got lost in all of it. The Hong Kong protests and shit like that. Because I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would say that China is the dark enemy of the world right now. Assuming that we're the light, and I don't even know if it matters if we're the light or not. But some of the shit China's doing is pretty dark, and we're too busy hating on Russia and our current president's relationship with Russia than bothering to give a shit about what China's doing right now. I mean, like,
with anything, it's hard to focus on what's going outside when you've got so much going on inside.
I agree.
It's just, especially with 24-hour news cycle, a lot of stuff just kind of gets buried from one major story.
I agree, but it's that's one of my hope. I don't know if we're gonna go into the future and the hopes and whatever, but it's not gonna happen. But I like the PC wokeness is fucking bullshit. It needs to stop. I don't think most people fucking give a shit. Either way, I don't think there's enough hateful people that fucking matter. And the people that argue that it's important to a level of their own version of hatred aren't important. I think most people are over a lot of the fucking little bullshit that we fight over. And that's, I mean, again, it goes to the problem with the virus and the whole thing too, is that we're too busy.
I think a lot of people are just impatient to want to move past it.
I agree with that for sure. But I'm just saying like all the, I don't know, on the like, I don't know, going back to like another $100 million thing that was going on here locally, like that whole apology thing. It's like, all right, you were right, and I'll give you that. It's like, you're right. What does it hurt? I could see lanes where it could be a problem for a public apology, but
I mean, this is affecting people and has affected people that are still alive.
I agree, and that's what I'm saying. Like I will
even our Mayor Kane got behind it.
And I will. The apology part. I will step back off of my I don't understand it. I still don't quite understand it, but I will at least acknowledge that my opposition is lack of understanding, and at minimum, you're probably right that it's not going to damage. What hurt does it do to do it? I don't think there's enough real quantifiable problem that it's worth pitching a fit over. The $100 million, though, I will agree with Randy on. It's not free money. It's grant money, and I go back and forth on that because grant money is not local money, and so it's money that they're taking from us anyway. So we might as well take as much back as we can. But there's money spent, and like how this shakes down, I don't that part I get a little bit iffy on, and it's something that I need to look into a little deeper before I really speak strongly one way or the other. But
I still say you could find other things that we spend gross amounts of money.
But that doesn't
amounts of money on.
But that
doesn't make it any better. But
right, that
I think it makes it
you're right.
A lot worse
You're
in the grand scheme.
You're 100% right that there is worse things that we waste $1 trillion on, like more war. But to say that there's not to say that okay, let's just throw this money around because it's not as much as other things. Doesn't mean we should say okay to it. doesn't mean that pushing back against.
I haven't looked at the benefits of it. If they're talking about adding, lowering the business tax or increasing spending there to allow more businesses to come in there. I don't know what all of the $100 million is going towards.
I don't either, but to assume that, but it doesn't matter what it's going towards. It's where it's coming from is the bigger problem. It's money coming.
But if you don't know where it's going to, you don't know the benefit of what could become of it.
Okay, but that's that you're correct, but that's something that we don't know either. And I think that was Randy's point last week, is that we don't know where it's going or where it's coming from. We know it's coming from grant money, which is federal money, more or less. Some of it's state money. But we know it's coming from grant money.
Assuming it's going to be public record.
Right. But we don't know that going into it.
We don't know that it's going to be required to be public record?
No, we know that it's going to be public record, but we don't know where it's going or where it's coming from. That's the point. So we're apologizing. Okay, fine. I'm good with the apology. But we're also we're apologizing and committing to spending the money that we don't know where it's coming from or where it's going to.
I mean, we revitalized the Cumberland Avenue Strip. Where'd that money come from? Where did it go? Was it a great benefit to single lane Cumberland Avenue? I don't know.
No.
It seems to me it wouldn't really.
It was stupid.
Increase traffic volume.
Right. Okay, but so you're comparing a previous failure. What are you getting at here? I'm confused. So something that we don't know where it came. I don't understand.
Oh, it was just another case in point where we don't know where the money came from. We don't know what it was going to, what it could benefit.
But we did it anyway, and so if we're going to look back at it, do we feel like it was a benefit?
I mean, like you, I don't know the full extent of where the money came from or where it's going to. I mean, looking at the strip now, it's kind of hard to make that judgment just because we've had the year that is 2020 right after they finally finished it earlier this year.
Right.
So we don't know really how much it's really affecting business. It's kind of hard to say because it's then becoming and compounded with all the shutdowns.
So I just don't understand why you're bringing that part up in that.
And that there wasn't a pushback on revitalizing the strip.
I would have pushed back on it if I was paying attention, but I wasn't then. I mean, if it was county money, if it's city money, I don't have a dog in that fight, technically. But
it just seems like we're talking about revitalizing a certain area, and then yes, you throw the apology on top of it, but then the city's talking about revitalizing a certain area of town, just specifically because of past segregation that had gone on. So there's a lot more pushback, just because of we're tying it to past digressions.
Right. Well, I guess my thing is that I don't know that. I'd be curious to see what the data is on any revitalization project.
When we're finally like, hey, we shat on this area for so long, like we want to try to make it better.
Right. I agree with that. Right.
What's happening versus like, hey, this area's been shitty for a while. We're gonna throw a bunch of money at here just because.
But I'm just saying, like, but
to try to increase.
But I guess I would be curious to know what locally or nationally, like what revitalization projects have worked financially for the township or the county or the municipality.
Yeah, it'd be one interesting thing to look at.
I would like to know. It's like, okay, great, we did this great thing, and certain things happened, and that area is nicer now. Okay, that area is nicer now is great, but does that mean anything in the long term? Is it really just
like you said? That's the long term. That's not something you're going to find out until years later.
Right, but we certainly have. There's certainly data examples,
models, yes.
Right? In that, but fuck. I guess I'm trying to figure out how to word what I'm trying to get at. I guess my concern is and this is weird for me because I'm not against this in general, but is this an incentives game where you have developers that are developing in a place in reaction to an incentive program, not necessarily a reaction to what they want to do. They're only doing it because they get an incentive for it. But I don't know. Yeah, go ahead. Help yourself. I don't know. Fuck, I gotta piss. I think we're done.
Let's do it.
All right. I know you did it wrong. It's this way.
I did.
Episode 40, motherfucker. I don't know. 2021's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be the best year ever. We're gonna kill this fucking virus. We're gonna go back to our lives. We're gonna be happy people. I'm gonna retire. That's on my agenda. I'm gonna retire to podcasting. So as this year progresses, I want to do more episodes. That's what I do. I have so much fun doing this. That's my thing. I meant to bring that up. That was my goal. Really, in the future, is I want more listeners. I want more candidates. I want more government people. I want more local news coming through me instead of through the bullshit other news sources that are around. So episode 40, almost agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Hit us up. Let us know what you want to hear. I don't know. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you do it and enjoy it. Be safe, be careful. Let's get through this thing. I want to go on with my life. Good night, everybody.